we
I
constantly
didn't finish telling my story, Walt. You goddamn.
No, we gotta be
dumb
seamless.
bitch.
We gotta be seamless because no one cares what you're talking about. No, continue.
Sorry, no, sorry. I can't even curse because of monetization stuff. I mean, we're not even getting paid. Who cares? Anyways, so she whistles at Gordon Ramsay, and then Gordon Ramsay's like, "Oh, you're not whistling at me. No." He's like, "You're not whistling at me like a freaking dog. You look like more of a dog than I do." And
Damn.
F off. I was like, Jesus. Okay, I was trying to really say that without cursing. It's really hard. So we need a tip jar.
A tip jar, yeah. We gotta go broke if we got a tip jar on this podcast.
You're gonna be broke, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You bum.
Right.
Check the sound. Check the sound. You silly giraffe.
Are you calling me long? Thanks, Walt.
You're welcome.
I love how the video is just called My Broadcast.
It's called My Broadcast.
Yeah.
Ain't no way. Ain't no way. How you doing, Soul? How you feeling? You just woke up?
I'm good, man. I'm trying to figure out what did we name it the last time we did this?
That's a fantastic question.
That's redundant.
If
We sound
YouTube
good, by
would
the way.
Load. What the fuck?
Thank you. No, Macho, it's not redundant. It's
We're
it's
ready to
essays are.
monetize. Thanks, Soul.
God damn.
Wait, are we?
we're not even monetized.
Oh, okay. Like, what's happening? Damn, boy.
YouTube doesn't care enough for us to be monetized.
I mean, with 300...
Yeah, Macho, do you know what we named the last time we did this?
I'm checking right now.
I can't fucking go. God damn it, dude. I'm sorry. I don't mean to curse so early.
Wow, watch that mouth.
We have the most anticipated games of 2022. That's something I'm seeing right now. It's popping up. I do not know.
No.
Hold on. Let me You're so funny, Walt.
Thank you.
Let me check the playlist real quick. Oh, I gotta put your new video in there. I just reminded myself.
And y'all are seeing Pokemon gameplay right now. This is the brand new Scarlet Violet open world dynamic environment. Not really. Everything pops up.
I think we didn't really label it, so you have it as our most anticipated games of 2022. We probably did our top 10 in that video.
Okay. All right.
Checking right. Yep, that's what you did. You did most anticipated games of 2022 and our personal game of the year list.
Okay.
Because then you played Free for the Gods, and then you never played ever again.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Man said, "Hey guys, I actually bought this new game, Pray for the Gods, and I'm gonna say, guys, this game I really like, and you just went on the good things about it, and we never heard of it again." Kind of like Destruction All Stars.
Nah, I played that a lot more.
You played Destruction.
I played that for 19 hours. Yeah.
Dang. Oh wow. Oh, that's true.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for you.
I mean,
Man,
listen,
I actually like that game.
that game is not
I
bad.
actually reviewed it.
Yeah,
reviewed it.
It's just generic. Like it's just like not special. It's not
Reminds me
special.
of another person in this podcast that's just
Jeez.
Stop talking about yourself, Macho.
Who said that?
Who said that? Yeah. What, you got schizophrenia now?
Yo, Alpha, what's going on, man?
Hello.
Alpha, my guy, you just reminded me to put our Discord link in the podcast channel. I legit thought about that yesterday, and I was like, maybe I should put the link in there, and I just got lazy. So I apologize.
So, there was like some new, like, I don't know, like guidelines or whatever that said that, I don't know, that we should be a little bit more careful with like how many times we're, throwing out the F-bombs and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
That's why.
Got you.
I know that in the first 10, 30 seconds, there shouldn't be any cursing.
Yeah.
And hey,
Oh well.
today it's a learning curve. You know, you live, you learn.
Yep.
It's
I'm
all.
gonna. You're working on description stuff, right? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna send you the Discord link just to throw in there, and I'll
This.
mess with it afterwards.
What?
Just
What?
because Alpha was asking for about it too, and I made like a yeah. Take that. Actually, hold on. Don't do that one. Not that link. This one is the more public one I created. So I made it like our general chat that we just always throw in. That's privated, but then I created other chats there for our channels if people want to join in. All right, yeah. Today is our personal game of the year list. This is gonna be interesting because I just learned when Soul streaming on Friday that is not just games from 2022 we're listing off, as games that we played in general. So
Yeah.
there's gonna be a couple of cheats here, and I going through my list. So certain games I replay this year, like Kingdom Hearts and Bloodborne, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not on my list. I swear.
Sure.
I
Yeah,
was
because
thinking,
it's gotta be games that you've played for the first time, like
yes,
this year.
exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what I thought of when I was thinking about putting this. I'm like, wait, nah, it should just be games I play for the first time. So
Yeah, but you're capable of going, oh, but it feels like I'm playing it for the first time every time.
no, sorry,
That sounds like
I'm
something you
not.
would say.
Me. No, that sounds like something you would say because you don't finish your games.
Yeah, you're right.
Sheesh.
You're not wrong, sir.
Oh, we're throwing dag. So me and Walt the past day have been throwing dags at each other like no tomorrow, and just laughing
Noted.
about it.
Yeah, Macho's
Noted.
got some daddy issues with me.
Sheesh.
Sheesh. It was auto tune. Sheesh.
Did you guys
But
see?
today we're playing Elden Ring, so if you want to join us, feel free.
Yes, sir.
Did you guys see the Dice Awards nominations?
I did not.
Yeah,
No.
nah, man. Who won?
Uh, no one won, dummy. The hell?
It was nominations.
Oh, I thought we were first talking about nominations, then be winners. When's it? When
Yeah,
is
you
that?
really don't listen.
I think in March.
When is
March,
that? March.
I think, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, not a lot of Japanese representation. That's the one that always like, because I don't know why people always say, "Oh, the Game Awards doesn't, have like Japanese representation." I'm like, "No, dude, that's always the Dice Awards. The Game Awards usually does good on that stuff, but the Dice Awards is the one that never does it." Macho, they didn't have Xenoblade for best score in music.
Yeah, that's weird. That game has such great design too. I don't know why it's not getting represented in that front too.
Yeah,
Really
it's
great
weird.
open world design.
It's weird, man. A lot of Horizon representation though, which is cool.
Nice.
Finally, it's probably not going to win anything.
Damn.
Well, I mean, they have different categories than the Game Awards. So like, I think one of the ones they have is animation. I think that's one that Horizon should like. It's probably like its best chance of winning something. Like it should definitely get that.
Yeah, I mean, jeez, that game was probably freaking stupid expensive, dude.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to do a little bit more of animation, like free programming on my computer, stuff like that, and to be able to upload and actually like sync up like high quality textures. You need some powerful stuff. Like it's not like some small time thing. So, and they did that for every side character in Horizon Forbidden West.
Yeah.
So that's and during the pandemic, crazy stuff.
Yeah. Definitely.
Should absolutely win something.
Um.
Yeah, I didn't know YouTube chat didn't allow curse words now. I thought that was up to us.
Interesting.
Hmm.
But okay. Why don't you guys think we should get started?
Yes, ma'am.
Do it.
Okay. Well, also, quick side note, I finished Edge Runners.
Ooh, yes, sir.
Yeah, I think David is a little piece of shit. I'm not gonna lie.
Nah, you're wild.
It's true. It's true. I
Near
don't
the
like.
end, right?
You
Near
don't
the
like
end, right?
David?
Yeah, I don't like David.
Dang, that's a first.
Bro, this man was literally told over and over again, like, Choom, you better chill out with the Chrome upgrades, you better lay low with that. And he was like, nah, bro, I'm gonna keep doing it. Like, they literally the Ripper Doc was like, yo, like, let me like start de-upgrading you or whatever. He's like, no, just give me more blockers. I'm like, I couldn't feel sympathetic towards him because it's like he literally asked for this outcome,
No,
like.
you're right. You're right. That's what makes it better. Because how does a legend become in Night City? It's by going out with a bang. And my man needed to chrome up to face up to the challenge. Although at the end, he got hold with the whole situation with who was it? The military company that got that big suit. That's
God
the
damn,
moment.
spoilers for anybody watching. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't care. You know that big suit? Yeah. That's when it really got
Say
bad.
doesn't care.
Yeah, Macho, this
Anyway.
is a PlayStation podcast. This ain't no anime podcast. You're here, you hear it. Well, too bad. Sometimes life doesn't go according. Anyway, so introduce us.
Anyway, guys, welcome to the DualShock and Sense podcast, episode 86. I want to say.
Sure.
Let me go.
87, I think 87.
Is it 87? The hell?
I think it's
The
86.
hell?
Okay, yeah, it's 80. It's 87. Yeah, guys, welcome back to the DualShock and Sense podcast, episode 87. We got a really cool show planned for you guys. Probably a long one because this is our personal top 10 games of 2022. So how this will work is, well, just for an example, Walt will say his number 10 game of the year. He'll talk about it a little bit. Then I will do my number 10 game of the year, talk about it. Then Macho will follow that up with his number 10 game of the year. And then we go back to Walt. He'll do his number 9, and basically we do that all the way down to we get to number 1. So yeah, this worked out. The last time we did it, we had a lot of fun with it. So we said, hey, why not do it again? Why not repeat it? So let me introduce the people we got on this podcast, man. The usual suspects. We got Macho here. How you doing, man?
Hello, what's going on, everybody? Happy Saturday. It's the Kingdom Hearts and the Final Fantasy fanatic coming back and ready to talk about games. We got a lot of cool stuff planned as well. I'm excited. It's gonna be a fun top 10. This will be a little different from last year because last year I really focused on just games that released that year, but this time I played a lot of older games, so I'm excited to talk about them, man.
Sir, yes, sir. We also got Walt here. What's going on, man?
Hello. A lot of games, a lot of talking. Probably more talking than talking about the games because we go on tangents. So can't wait to diverge from topics while talking about this list. But here we are, man.
Yes, sir. And yeah, so this week, a little different for us. We're not gonna do the whole talking about the games that we've been playing. We're just gonna get straight into it, I think. Does that sound good, guys?
Sure thing.
Oh wait, I'm playing so much. Wait, hold on. That's no. Yeah, I'm fine.
Say
with it.
that for. Oh, you good? You good?
My man was about to go off on you.
I was like, yo, this is shaping up to be a 4-hour podcast. We do not need to make it a 4-hour podcast. But yeah. So I mean, let's just get the ball rolling on this. Who wants to kick things off?
Macho, since you're so eager to talk, go ahead and kick it off.
I mean, I asked that question. Macho, do you want to go first, or I can go first because my number 10 is pretty short.
Yeah, go for it. I thought we were gonna go in the order that you said. You said Walt, you, and then me.
You want
I
me
mean,
to
that was just an example.
Mm.
Oh,
But
okay.
I can list out my number 10 because
Yeah, go for
it's
it.
pretty quick. Okay, guys. So yeah, to kick off the DualShock and Sense podcast's personal top 10 games of the year, my number 10 is a little game called Signalis.
Oh,
Oh, that's
wow.
surprised.
You caught me off guard there, brother.
Yeah, has anyone on the podcast played it?
No, not
I've
yet.
not,
I
no.
pre-ordered it physical, but I haven't played it.
Yeah, I want to get it physical because I like how the box art looks. But yeah, I mean, this is number 10. I think it would be higher if I spent a lot more time with it, but yeah, I can't, in my right mind, I can't put it any higher because I'm just scratching the surface with the game.
Hmm.
But yeah, so far, I mean, the premise is it's obviously a horror, like a throwback horror puzzle game. You're playing as this girl who crash lands on this planet. She is looking for someone. That's the basic premise. But yeah, it feels very almost classic like PS1 era like Resident Evil where you're like literally having to like go through multiple rooms trying to solve these puzzles, finding these tucked away, well, solving these puzzles to unlock like items. um for instance, there's like certain doors that you need to get through, but you can't find the key card, so you have to go find the key card, but you only find one half of the key card, so now you have to find the other one. Then once you find both pieces, they're obviously cut in half, so it's like you can't put them together, so you need to find another item to actually put the key card together. Right? So it's like little things like that. It definitely feels like classic Resident Evil in that sense.
Mm.
Um, it's also text-based as well. Just the aesthetic is really, really pretty because again, it is that sort of like PS1 sort of graphic style. Um, but yeah, I really dig it because it also reminds me much of like Alien. Just that whole vibe of like being alone on this sort of spaceship, but also the noises is very like from that era of like movies of like those sci-fi movies. Like I don't know how else to explain it, but like how like an Alien where like the I don't know when like things like beep and like they're using the computer and stuff like that. I don't know if you can like imagine that specific noise, but it's like those noises are like in this game, and it's just like it just like immediately puts you in that like I don't know like 1970s kind of like vibe or like era, and it's like I don't know. I think in terms of like putting you in a sort of like headspace, like a creepy headspace from that time period. It does a really really good job of doing that. Um, but yeah, it's a really really cool game. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm excited to kind of get deeper into it. So yeah, that is my number 10, Signalis.
Wow.
Dope. That sounds good. I actually want to try that out too. So it's nice to see that it's actually a decent game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same.
yeah, it's yeah, apparently the puzzles get like even crazier, and like that's like the one of the parts of the game that I hear consistently being praised. And people are saying that this is like a horror like classic, like or just like a horror masterpiece. So yeah, I'm
Ooh.
I'm really excited to get deeper into it for sure.
Man, I love it that what sold me on this game, literally, I haven't looked at like actual gameplay for it because all I heard was Resident Evil and sci-fi. I'm good. Like I'm sold. Like I want to play it already. And it looks I've seen the like the actual teaser, but not the gameplay break like overview or whatever. And it looks amazing. I'm so excited for it. I'm going to play it on Switch when it comes out physical.
And like the title introduction for
Mhm.
it is like one of the coolest like title introductions I feel like I've seen in a hot second. Because like it's like after you finish the prologue,
Mhm.
you go to like this new area in the game. I think you like leave the ship or whatever, and it just does this really really creepy thing before it actually before it does the whole thing like boom like Signalis, it introduces the game.
Right.
Like I don't know, it was like one of the coolest like title intros that I've seen in a while.
Macho,
But yeah, that's
it reminds me a bit of Metroid Dread, the way that he described like the being alone and the beeping and like because whenever you're in Metroid Dread, the what I forgot the name of the robots that follow you, but when you're in a room alone with them, you only hear the beeping of the robot and you don't know where this robot is. But when it's around, it kind of reminds you of that same sensation in Alien Isolation where you're one on one with this one enemy and it's like an unbeatable enemy. It's a Oh man, I'm so excited. But who's going now? Is it Macho or me?
I'll
me,
go.
whoever.
I'll go.
Okay.
Because mine's pretty quick too. So number 10 for me, and again, this is a revised list from what I had before, but
Mm-hmm.
A couple games on. So a couple games actually got bumped out from my original list, but number 10 for me here is DNF Duel.
Oh man.
And this came out in the middle of summer, and there's a lot of really cool hype around it. There
Hmm.
was some rumblings of this could be the next Marvel game, and you and
Past
I talked
tense.
about that
Yes.
before. Yes, past tense.
Hmm.
But the thing is, though, this game does really well is this gameplay, and it's for me, it's kind of hard to get really attached to a fighting game and really fall in love with it unless I fall in love with the mechanics of it. And the reason why DNF Duel just gravitates to me so much because the art style was very Arc System like because they did develop this game along with a team who worked on Marvel's Capcom 3, and just the fact that every move that a character had was legitimately broken. You had to find a way just to escape any sort of crazy conundrum, crazy cross up that the player be throwing at you, that the AI be throwing at you. And the thing is, it's a level playing ground because everybody has broken moves. So it made the game super fun to play. The online was awesome. The only drawback on this game was the fact that it had really weird communication and follow up. There was little to no marketing, little commercial. So even though I was following the game pretty heavily, the fact that there was no really big season pass announcement until like December of 2022,
Right.
nearly 6 months after release. And mind you, that I've released to get more people hype who do still play the game, but literally a month later, the game was dead online because there's really no kind of like there was no like bounce back from like the developers or what kind of big updates we're having or anything like that until just recently. And they're still really kind of rocking that boat. It's still a little weird on the communication part, but man, it's a solid game. I think the single player stuff, I've seen a lot of people complain about it before. I think it's pretty good. It's decent. I got the platinum trophy in it, so that just tells you I loved playing the game in general. But there's enough varied in characters. I'm excited for the new ones that are coming out, and it just brought back that old school kind of fighting game vibe where you just had to go in and just figure stuff out, and that
Mhm.
could either turn you off completely or gravitate towards the game more, and I was the latter. So I ended up enjoying the game a ton, and I'm excited for the new DLC to come out. So yeah, number 10 for me is DNF Duel.
All right.
Nice, nice. Yeah, that's a game that I want to like. Well, I don't know if you've ever seen Kill a Kill If.
Sure
That
have.
game. Yeah, like that. I also think our Arc System Works developed that game. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like there's just something about their art style that just like even though like I played Blast Blue, I think Cross Tag Battle earlier last year,
Hmm.
or 2021. And like I don't know, it's just that even though I'm not a fighting game fan, it's just their art style that just always like draws me in and makes me at least want to give it a shot, you know?
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
that's one
yeah.
of those games.
There's more. It's more of, I would say, gravitating if you're into the DNF franchise, which is like a MMO. I think it's MMO, right? Like it's something like a Chinese online game. It's not an MMO, but it's something else. But it's really big there. But of course, it's niche here. Like no one's really heard about it until they've seen this game. But the characters are just so cool. Um, each character is not like a specific like, oh, this is like Amelia, this is like Johnny or something like that. Like each one are actually named after the classes from the game. So there's striker, there's like a gunslinger, and stuff like that. So they're pretty generic in their names, but their character art style, dude,
Hmm.
super cool. So Arc System works with Flash. So
Oh yeah. All right.
Nice, nice.
So
Well, what do you got?
my number 10 is Darkwood. Uh, this I don't know when this game came out. I think it's been out for a good couple of years. This is a horror game. I played it on the Steam Deck. It's a top-down environment, like heavy, ambiance heavy horror game. Essentially, what it does is throws you into this world that's been ravaged by, I want to say, trees. So it's like a tree type of disease that infects people and makes them turn into like like zombie type enemies. They look like clickers, but they're not clickers. They just look like they have bark coming out of their skin and their limbs and whatnot. And essentially, what this game does so cool is, for the very first hour of it, you play as a doctor, and you're tasked with surviving. You know, you just finished preparing your home for the night. Every night there's attacks, so you have to be prepared to not be outside. And if you're inside where the light is, you're not attacked at all, unless you make any type of noise. Essentially, you're tasked with looking for food before the night comes, and you come to realize that your dog is dead. And then you're tasked with finding out how he died. You go to the woods, you find this like homeless man. They make you think it's a homeless man, like someone that just happened to be around the area when the apocalypse started. And the inner monologue or inner dialogue rather is, oh, I need to help this man. I need to take him to my home and make sure he's well before the night hits. He takes this man, the doctor, the one you're playing as, and it jumps to the doctor torturing this homeless dude and questioning him and being like, hey, where is she? Where were you? And it starts giving you like there's no lore yet. He starts talking like they're not expecting you to know the lore behind all these dialogues. Then the light goes out, and there's monsters coming in, and the doctor runs away, and the homeless dude is trapped in this one room where he was being tortured in, and then day comes, and then now you're playing as the homeless dude. And now this is the protagonist, and the villain was the guy that you were playing as in the beginning. And now you have to look for a way to get out of this place and look for that doctor that has probably the answers to what you're looking for. And this game is pure survival, and it's segmented in days. You know, day 1, day 2, day 3. There's no like events going on a day. It's just day 1, day 2 until you survive or until you get out, until you die. You can look for food. You can look for traps. There's dogs roaming around, like wild dogs. There's different areas you can explore, like a abandoned house, an underground bunker. There's NPCs. There's merchants that you can buy, you know, guns or food or recipes from. And there's no music. There's no music. It's just the environment. It's the clicking, you know, it's the cracking of the branches, is the clicking of the monsters. It's the wind, the rustling of the leaves. There's no music at all until night comes. And then it starts, you know, when you're watching a horror movie and you just hear like the orchestra in the background start to amp up and amp up and amp up. That's all you hear in the night until it ends, and then day comes. And it's always this never-ending cycle of tension. And you need to survive every single day. And it gets only harder. It's like 7 days to die, but every 7 days, it's just every one day. It is so good. It is amazing. I played it for like 2 weeks straight during Halloween, during October rather. Fantastic game. It made my number 10, and I definitely recommend it for any horror fans out there, because it's not your typical jump scares and all this. No, you get jump scared, it's because you saw something that didn't have an audio cue, but it's because they're not near enough to make an audio cue, because everything's proximity based. So if something's too far away, you are not going to hear it until it gets within range. It's amazing. it's and you will shit yourself.
And this came out this year?
No, this came out I think like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but I played it last year, and it was my first time ever playing it, and it was, oh man, it was an experience. It was it's on PlayStation as well. So if y'all interested, Darkwood it's called. Fantastic game, little short game. You can finish it in like, I think if you speed run it, you can finish it in less than 10 hours, probably less than 5 hours. But you can play it for not forever, but like for a long, long time.
Gotcha. It makes sense why that game didn't ring like any bells for me. Macho, have you heard of this game?
No, actually, I've not.
It's fantastic, man. It's a certified horror classic. It's a really, really good game. I
thought you were gonna say it's a certified hood classic.
No. I mean, if you want to say that, sure. But honestly, I like games. It's like movies. I like movies and games that scare me, not with a jump scare sound effect, but with the environment that you're telling me and that you're showing me. And genuinely, I will get scared because I stepped on a branch. That's like, I'll be so tense, and then I step somewhere that I shouldn't. I'm like, oh god, oh jeez, I thought something happened. It's amazing. The tension is beyond the charts. Yeah. What's your number 9, Soul?
Yeah, so we all went through our number 10 pretty quickly. I'm happy. I'm proud of us, man.
We come a long way.
Yes, sir. So my number 9 is probably the most recent game that I've been playing. A little game called Neon White.
Ooh.
There you go.
Yeah, this game. I was about to drop the the F bomb right there.
Oh man.
Y'all heard it. Y'all heard it loading up. Let's just say that this game is freaking awesome. It is essentially, yeah, just like Ghost Runner in the sense of like you are presented with these open levels, and it's almost like a little puzzle because you have to figure out how to get from one end to the other as quickly as possible. The real catch with this one is the thing that differentiates Neon White from other games of a similar ilk is the card system. So essentially you have multiple weapons that you pick up throughout the level. And they're all sort of like one-time use weapons. So like for instance, the yellow cards are handguns, but they also work as a double jump. So like in the moment you have to decide like, okay, because in these levels you not only have to get from one end to the other as quickly as possible, but you have to kill all the enemies in the level as well. That's the only way that you'll be able to actually like unlock the gate at the end of the level to progress to the next level. So you have to decide, okay, do I use the yellow card, which is the handgun, to kill my enemies, or do I use it for a double jump? So like if you actually run out of bullets, then the card gets destroyed. So like sometimes there will be cases where you have to use a few bullets and then use the double jump, and then that card gets destroyed. There's a green card which acts as a stomp, and like a submachine gun as well. So the stomps are really useful there's like red little broken down platforms on the floor. So if you start out really, really high, you can use the stomp to basically like go down to the ground like really, really quickly. There's a purple card that acts as like a dash. And really the sort of like skill mastery that comes from juggling all these different cards at once, like bouncing back between like, okay, when do I use the double jump versus okay, now's a good time to use the dash through, but at the same time being like, okay, when do I use the actual bullets that these cards have as well? I can't use too much or else the card itself will be destroyed, and then basically I'm useless. I'm left without any options to actually like get over some of these platforms. So it's really like a juggling act, having to juggle like all these different cards at the same time. The sense of momentum with the game is really, really cool. So yeah, that's basically like the gameplay loop. It's really, really addictive because again, you're finishing these levels in like under 25 seconds if you're like really, really good. Because like I think you have like a bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. So it's like really addictive to be like, oh, okay, so like I did this in 25 seconds, but if I was just like 3 seconds quicker, I would have gotten gold. So it's like, okay, restart the level. Let me get back in there, right? It's that sort of level of addiction, and it helps because it's like pretty close to like an instant reload to restart these levels. So yeah, it definitely has that addiction factor. So yeah, the gameplay loop is just really, really addictive. It does it makes you never want to put the controller down. And then like the other half of this game is like sort of like a visual novel kind of game. Yeah, which is very interesting. Whoa, and I know this is gonna appeal to you. This game is horny, man.
Oh man. Why? Oh man.
Yes, sir. You
Yeah.
just absolutely nailed.
Yes, sir. So like the basic premise is that you're this character called Neon White who is this I want to say like a demon hunter. But he basically like wakes up with like no memories. But essentially the basic premise is that him alongside the other neons, neon violet, red, yellow, and green all compete in like a little friendly competition, and whoever wins gets promised a place in paradise. Um, and
Okay.
so the where the visual novel stuff comes in is when like there's a lot of in between like missions and stuff like that. You're talking to these characters, and Neon Yellow, for instance, is this very like dude bro kind of character. Uh, Neon Violet is like the typical e-girl, alt-girl kind of character.
Your favorite one?
But she's also exactly, but she's also like very very horny for Neon White. Like she,
Walt, oh
bro,
man, Walt would love that. He would feel like he's at Anime Con Expo.
Hey, yo.
yeah, yeah. I mean, she talks exactly like you would expect her to talk. She was talking
Ooh.
about not that, but like the high pitched like alt girl voice.
Oh god.
Um, she was talking about wanting Neon White to spit in her mouth and stuff like that,
Hey,
bro. Like I'm telling you, this
yo.
game. Yeah, I'm telling you, this game. Yeah, man. Um, Neon Red is like not like Dommy Mommy, but she kind of
What?
has that vibe. Kind of has
What
that
is
vibe
that
to her.
term?
You don't know what that is,
Bro, I
What?
never heard it
Yeah,
from your
what?
I've never heard that term from your mouth. Golly.
Oh, he heard of
Dommy,
it before. He just
Dommy. Yeah, come on, man. Get with the program.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah. Um, but yeah, so you're interacting with these characters. There's like a little relationship system. You can't necessarily date them, but you can like hang out with them and just like improve your relationship with all these different characters as well. Um, but yeah, it and the thing is that like I feel like some people would find the dialogue cringy because it is very much like it's very modern and very like I don't know. There's like some like Neon Red, for instance, the Dami Mummy character that I was telling you guys about. That there's like this one moment last night where like Neon is like trying to like charm her and like like say some nice things to her and stuff like that. And she's like, "Are you making a D&D reference to me right now?" He's like, "What? No, no, no." So like stuff like that. The Neon Yellow was like, "Dude, I'll be your Sasuke. I'll be your the darkness of your light," and stuff like that, right? So it's like there's a lot of like pop culture references and just it feels very modern. And I feel like some people may find that like the dialogue and the writing cringy, but like I
No, that sounds
sort of
amazing.
I appreciate it because it's like the game knows what it wants to be in terms of like with its characters, and like it's unabashedly like that. It's not afraid to be that, and it's like so committed to that. And I don't know, I appreciate it. I find it pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's pretty funny.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it definitely has like the best of both worlds. Where necessarily like Ghost Runner had the gameplay for me, and it didn't necessarily have the character slash story. Neon White has both that addictive, like can't put down gameplay as well as the um characters that you really get behind, but also characters that you find endearing, and a story that is actually like pretty intriguing as well, as you sort of like slowly piece together Neon White's backstory and stuff like that. um I'm just scratching the surface. I'm just scratching the surface with this game. There's so much like more to this game that I haven't even begun to unlock. I'm still like very very early on. There's like secret levels. There's levels that the I think if you max out some of these characters like relationship statuses, they also give you like secret hidden levels that's like that pertains to specifically like their characters. So like Neon Violet specifically, I think if you get her relationship high enough, she gives you these levels that are like torture themed, and it's like how she secretly like feels. It's like a manifestation of like how she feels about you specifically, almost like a Persona 5 esque palace sort of thing. Um, so and then Neon Yellow, he's like a goddamn idiot. He doesn't know that like the cards, for instance, gives you powers. So like his levels, like you can't use any powers because of that. So like it's I don't know. This game is just like it has so much going for it, and it's all really, really smart, really, really like expertly utilized, and like, yeah, I don't know. I'm having a really, really good time with it, and I can't wait to play more. So yeah, that's my number 9.
Sounds like a game worth platinuming. Golly, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm not really big on the whole like speedrunner thing, but
Yeah.
I always appreciate like a funny kind of cheeky story like that. That's actually really cool.
Yeah, no, and it the speedrunning aspect reminds me of how the only game I ever felt compelled to speedrun was a Solar Ash. Same with this one. This one I feel like if I play it, I'm gonna want to do the speedrun challenge or something because it sounds like that's like it's fun to do it. You know, you're not forcing it to be a speedrun game. It's already a speedrunning game. That's cool.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I guess the other thing that might turn you off, Macho, is that so like based off of the like the medals that you get at the end of the levels, which again is the bronze, silver, gold, platinum. The higher of those medals that you get, so like if you get consistently like golds and platinums, that increases like your overall neon ranking. Um, and at the end of each chapter, you have to be like a specific rank in order to move on to the next chapter. So like for instance, at the end of chapter 1, once you finish all those levels, you need to be like a rank 90 in order to move on to the next area, right? So if you're not at level 90, then you need to go back to the level and start doing better on all those levels, getting better times in order to actually reach a rank high enough to be able to move on to the next chapter. So like that stuff could be a bit of a gatekeep for people who aren't fast enough at some of these levels, but really besides that, I think the game is like honestly like pretty generous with how fast you need to move through some of these levels and things like that.
This
Okay, cool.
this game is constantly on top 10 like game of the year lists. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm not too surprised that you're actually vibing with it, but I'm surprised of what it is because I didn't really know what it was. I never researched it, but now it sounds like my kind of game, and not for the horny part, but for everything else. But that's a
No,
plus.
so it's
That, that,
definitely
that
for
was
that part.
that was the gateway for you for sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
listen, you don't judge a man for what he wants, you know.
But yeah, it's a fantastic game. It would be higher if I spent more time with it.
For sure.
But yeah, that's my number 9.
All right.
Cool.
well,
All right. Well, my number 9 is again it's shifting around my entire list here. This was actually higher on my previous list. Triangle strategy is my number
Oh.
9. And this was a stark surprise for me. When did it come out? It came out early in the year. I think in
Yeah.
sometime February. But it was an impulse decision I just made because it was around the time of my birthday, and I was like, you know what, I want a good JRPG to like sink my teeth into, and Triangle Strategy was the absolutely perfect game to do that because it was new, it was fresh, and it brought like a whole new dynamic to a fun storyline that I really didn't expect, and it was one of the reasons why I picked up in the first place. So one of the reasons that really made me want to pick it up is the fact that a lot of people, including one of our good friends of the podcast, Flame, he reviewed it. He was telling me how it's basically like Game of Thrones meets Final Fantasy Tactics, and that really intrigued me. And then when I looked more into it, it was really more on the fact that whenever you reach a critical decision in the game, which it actually diverted your storyline path, and to me, that sounded like it was good for replayability. It sounded like a really cool, interesting start point. And these weren't like choose red pill or blue pill kind of thing. It was really, at least something as simple as that. It was really more deciding of the fact of whether you want to come to the aid of certain characters in a war or something like that, and how that drastically affected the rest of the story. So Triangle Strategy, in its essence, is a tactical, top-down grid-based JRPG similar to something like Final Fantasy Tactics or Fire Emblem, and it's really surrounded around these 3 different kingdoms that are in a resource-like war. And the story takes place 30 years after that war, where things are seen to be going pretty well. The princess of one region is going to marry the prince of another, and then there's another region that's far off in the north. It's kind of like they're pretty much content. They're like, whatever, we'll do whatever we want to do, but we're not going to bother anybody else. And it really kicks off when the prince of one kingdom, I think it's Glenbrook, it's called,
Yep.
where his father doesn't die, but he gets seriously injured. And then the princess's father, I think it was, right, Walt?
Mm-hmm.
The princess's father dies, something like that. I'm getting mixed up because like there's a couple more princes I'm thinking about now that I actually think about the
The
story.
game is not simple.
Yeah, but that's where the Game of Thrones comes in, where like there's multiple characters you kind of bounce around between. You
Mm-hmm.
mostly follow this guy named Sarah Noah, who is not really a prince, but is like a lord in the sense of a different kind of kingdom,
Yeah,
and his friend is the prince, and then and Sarah Noah is marrying the princess of another region for political purposes and stuff like that.
it's a very
And
political game.
yeah, yeah, but it's all very interesting stuff and it's really cool and I love the twists and turns in it. And as I said before, whenever you're making a critical decision, you get your group of uh of people that you recruit as you're playing the game and it's pretty quickly, it's not every chapter you're getting introduced to either two or three or four different characters, whether it's through the main story or through side quests.
Mm-hmm.
And you want them because each one brings a different dynamic to battle. So one could have a bow and arrow, and they're really good for covering different amounts of squares in the far off region that you need to actually get to. Because a lot of games surrounds of you reaching a certain point, not really kind of defeating all the enemies. So there's some missions like that, but there's some
Mm-hmm.
times where you just need to get your crew from point A to point B, and that long distance ranger could help you do that. Um, and again, it does that throughout the entire game, which is really cool. And not only do they play differently, but they actually have different personalities too. So it's like you're essentially learning a new character. And when you're bringing this new character into the fold, depending on how important they are in the story, they can actually have an influence in decisions you make. And you would have to convince them to make either one decision or the other. So in an instance where I talked about where there's a one point in the story you have to go and help out the princess's basically like her group of people, and you had to either stay where you are and not really get involved or actually go and help them out. And there are some people that are opposed to this, so you actually have to go in and convince them through dialogue to say like, hey, we should help them out because we stand for justice and this and that. Or you could be like, no, we should mind our own business because we're already like in a really bad place right now, and maybe we should just actually do something else in the meantime that needs our attention more. And they're actually pretty hard decisions. I'm not gonna
Mm-hmm.
lie to you. There's not like a real. There is a golden path in the story that you can follow, but there are enough diverting storylines where it's enough to that you want to replay them and see the different outcomes. You can actually get different endings. But it's not hard. It's not a simple game, man. It's not easy to make these decisions because you want to help them out, but at the same time, you're like, we're really weak right now. Like we're kind of alone, like in this war right now. So do we really want to risk the last reserve of troops that we have to help out the rest of the people, even though they really need that help? So the game is just a full chock full of decisions like that kept me on my edge every chapter. The story's great. I love the ending that I got. It wasn't even the true ending, but I loved it anyway. I thought it was really noble and cool. The music's incredible. It's everything you want in a tactical top-down JRPG from nowadays. It's I think people look at it now and they kind of like, yeah, Tactics Ogre Reborn is probably better, or like, Nothing Can Touch Final Fantasy Tactics, the case maybe. But I think you're gonna look back at Triangle Strategy and look at it very fondly for just continuing that genre forward and giving us great quality games like that. So number 9 is Triangle Strategy.
Beautiful. This is a game
Sorry,
that
sorry if I rambled on, but there's I haven't talked about this game in a while, so.
no, you only talked about the game. You talked enough, and that we got the grasp of what the game does because the game is not simple. It's not an easy game to kind of explain when you get into the plot details and whatnot. It's not just like, oh, you're a lord, you're trying to unite kingdoms. No, 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 no. You're not uniting anyone. You're just trying to like work during this political tension type deal.
Exactly.
Well, my number 9 is Sifu, and as y'all may
Ooh.
know, Sifu is a fighting game. Well,
Don't you start, bitch. Don't you start.
this was the first time in a game that I felt compelled to actually get good, like actually truly perfect the skill that I was given. Now, mind you, I'm a Souls player. I play Dark Souls, Bloodborne, all those games, and those games do demand you
Here
to
we
play
go.
get good or whatever. However,
Here's a superiority complex.
However, yeah, you're gonna say that you platinum in both consoles, you boy. I don't want to curse. This game truly tested my patience, like no game has ever done before. This game was hard, mega hard, super hard, so hard I nearly quit, and I was on the last boss. Yang tested my patience. Because here's the thing, y'all. This game has a lot of mechanics. You can dodge, weave. There's kicks. There's punches. There's blocks. There's combos. It's level based. So each environment has different types of weapons you can use. There's a museum. There's a training school. There's an abandoned building and a garden. But then you get to the bosses, and these bosses have two faces. Now listen to this. In your arsenal, you have what's called as like a special attack that you can expend 2 ki points essentially, or 2 energy points, or whatever they were called. And this essentially will allow you to do a like slow time type deal where you do this very like hardcore attack that takes down a lot of their health. You can do this in all of the bosses, except the last one. Now, I based my strategy on using that specific move at some point in the fights to drop down a lot of their health and get some combos in. The last boss does not allow you to do that at all in any moment. And, here's the thing. There's 2 phases to that boss. The first phase, you can try and use the attack, but he is faster than you. So there's no slowing time. You're just using energy points, and he's still attacking at the same pace. And then his second phase, there's absolutely no special gimmick or whatever. You have to rely on how good you got at actually fighting and throwing hands. This game's music, character design, fight design, the combat, the visuals, because it has that like watercolor like feeling to it. I'd say it's a short game. I'd say it's a game that you can complete in like less than 10 hours. But the first time you play it, you're definitely not going to take 10 hours probably. You're going to take longer because it's hard to get a grasp of it. Now, what the big marketing behind this game and what really sold a lot of people on this game is that it has this mechanic: when you die, you age and then you're reborn. But when you're reborn, you're 1 year older. But as you keep dying, you double the years that you age. So you start off at level 20. That's the starting age always. You're a 20-year-old apprentice that his master got liquidated by his former students. These former students left you on your own and thought that you would just lose all hope and you would be dead and whatever. But what your character does is that he trains for years and years and years, and then he's ready to go face these, I think it's 5 students. Yeah, it's 5 former students of your master.
Yeah.
And you start at level 20. However, there's like a lot of mysticism to this game. There's a lot of magic involved, which you later on kind of start unraveling. And when you die, you're reborn. So age 20, die, age 21. However, you get a debuff or like a death counter where if you die now again, you're not level 22, you're level 23. Die again, you're level 27. And then it just keeps getting higher and higher. And I think the highest you can go is like 70, 75 or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
But here's the thing. Not only does your age change, the way that you fight changes. So if you're younger, you hit not as hard, but you have a lot of health and a lot of stamina. The older you get, the harder you hit, and the better your stances and everything. However, your health is severely decreased, and you have way less stamina. So you kind of have to adapt your strategy as you go on if you continue to die. One of the hardest parts of the game, which Macho has platinumed the game, so he's done everything that the game has to offer.
I did it twice.
He did it twice. So he did the same thing twice. There's a one of the objectives of the game is complete the game without aging. So essentially, don't die.
No, it's complete the game without going over the age of 22 or 25.
Yeah, so don't die more than twice. And that is a feat that requires a lot of patience. But here's the thing. There's 5 levels. If you beat level 1 at age 20 and you start level 2 at age 20 and you die at level 2, you don't get back to level 1 at age 20. You stay at level 2 and then it says you beat level 1 with age 20 and it stays like that because it stays at the youngest age that you beat that level. So you don't have to beat the whole game if you keep dying forward. So right now I'm at the last level at age 20 because I was able to beat the museum boss. Wait, no, that's the third one. The underground ruins boss at age 21, I think it was. But that final level, man, that final level really takes a lot out of you because there's a lot of type of enemies throughout the whole entire game. And there's always the classic brute enemies or the very skilled enemies. And the last level is chock full of them. It's only the strong enemies. It's like 70% the strong type enemies throughout the entire game. In the last level.
You could speed run through that level though.
You can. And that's the beauty of these levels is that there are shortcuts. There's a lot of shortcuts in different levels that allow you to kind of just speed run through these levels. But it requires you to defeat like very strong opponents that will make you like go to all the way to age 40 before you actually beat them. But your objective is to get to 20. You just stay at 20. I love this game.
I know like the set of like 6 enemies you're talking about in the last level, and those gave me a problem before I was able to actually do it.
It's such a problem, and there's always I remember this one specific moment in the second level that it's the 2 enemies with one with the staff and one with I think she's like a kicker, like she kicks a lot.
Yeah.
Bro, there's enemies that will because you have I think the stamina is broken into like little segments. There's like a bar and there's like little segments in the stamina. And they will just chip at that stamina like crazy. It'll take full chunks. But it's a beautiful game. The dodging is very unique because you need to sway with the joystick. So you need to go, if you're dodging left, you move to the right. If you're dodging right, you move to the left. So you have to move the joystick depending on where the enemy is hitting. You can jump over attacks. You can duck below. It's so much nuance in the combat. And they just recently added or are gonna add an arena mode where you're gonna be able to go just through a variety of different enemies. I think there's a time limit or something. It's a fantastic game that if only talking about the games of 2022, it'd probably be like in my top 5. But yeah, no, this game is outstanding. And I feel like I want to replay it at some point again and just, kind of like speed run through it because it's so much fun just to put in like maybe an hour or 2 into it and see how far you can go. Because it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It feels satisfying. It doesn't feel like you're hitting a what is it, Macho? A wet mop or wet towel?
A wet blanket, yeah.
A wet blanket. That's what the trailers give Macho the impression of. But when you get to play it, I mean, look at it. He platinum both twice. So
yes, sir.
That's my number 9, man. I love Sifu. Sifu is a certified classic, and I want to get that steelbook because that steelbook is amazing.
Well, yeah, I almost picked it up this past week, but yeah, I went with Neon White and Signalis first. There's actually that steelbook that you're talking about. There is actually I don't know if it's still there, but the last time I went to my local GameStop, they had like the steelbook there.
Yeah,
like
the mall.
I gotta check it. Yeah, I gotta check it
yeah.
still.
Did it look good in person? Did it look good in person?
Yeah,
it looks so good.
That color is nice.
Damn.
But yeah, man. So my number 8 is this. I don't know if this is controversial, but
man,
yeah, it's a little game called Elden Ring.
Whoa! Sheesh!
Yeah.
It's not controversial because spoiler, it's not even on my list.
Oh,
no way. For
yeah,
real?
it's not. It's not on his list.
Jesus. what do I say about this game? So this was probably like a lot of people. This game just like swept me off my feet and like sunk its teeth into me for maybe a month, I think. But yeah, I mean, it's the classic sort of tried and true, what you expect combat wise from Souls games. So not too much surprising there. I think the biggest like thing for me about this game was just the exploration. Like I really felt empowered to just like go in any which direction as soon as you hit Limgrave for the first time and just kind of like find things or just like progress the story at my own pace. Like I felt like I wasn't on a leash or I wasn't necessarily told to go do this or go do that. Like I was really empowered to just like go about things in my own pace in my own way. And I really appreciated that. It felt very not necessarily new, but it felt new for me. So yeah, the exploration again was just the biggest like positive for me about this game. Just like again, like little things of just like stumbling into like Caelid for the first time when you're not supposed to be there and just like learning really quick, like effing around and finding out that you should not be there so early in the game. Stumbling, going down the well and finding the Soifra river for the first time, and just like, another thing, just like realizing just how big this game is too, right? Like discovering that there's a whole underground goddamn city, society underneath the map, right? Discovering the mountaintops of the giants, discovering the plateau, Atlas Plateau, right? The capital city as well, right? Discovering all that. Um, yeah, it just the size of this game really, really took me by surprise. It definitely got, I think, a little too large for me, especially near the mountaintops. Once you find that area, I think I was getting a little bit sort of not overwhelmed, but like a little drained at that point. But still, I think what they were able to do in terms of the scale of the game and making each area feel distinct from the last one you explored is an achievement within its own. And then like, despite my gripes with this game, I think one of the coolest things Elden Ring did for me that I never really explored with other From games was the side characters. This without a doubt was the game from all of From's catalog that I did the most side quests. I usually just like go for the main quest and get like one of the main endings or whatever. I never usually like seek out side characters and finish off their quests. Like I never would have done in previous From games like the whole Ronnie story plot line. I never would have done that, but I sought that one out specifically and completed it. Um Same thing with the wolf, I forget his name. Maul, do you know the wolf guy's name?
Yeah, Blide.
Yeah, yeah. Like right doing his the girl with the God, I forgot what they're called, but like with who would eat like the she didn't know there were eyeballs, but there were eyeballs, right?
The one that was blind.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I forget her name, but I know the one you're talking about.
Right. So like doing hers as well, right? And there's really just like a bunch of weird characters dotted around this world that you can interact with and uh do their plot lines, and it's really cool like just like beginning it and then like just going about your business and then finding them in another corner of the map just randomly. The Maleficent uh s- uh side quest as well, like doing that stuff and how it relates to Melania as
Yep,
well.
yep, yep.
I love doing that. So yeah, for I think that is an achievement as well, just like making me interested in the first time and actually completing a lot of those things. Um, but yeah, I think it's well documented my issues with like the bosses in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how they feel very much the result of Sekiro, but it's like Elden Ring is not Sekiro, right? So it definitely feels that classic thing that we always say that it feels like Sekiro bosses in a game that's not Sekiro,
Mm-hmm.
which was a major issue for me. But really, besides that, I really appreciated my time with Elden Ring, even though I didn't technically finish it because I got burned out with it. But the 100+ hours that I spent with it was overall, I think, a good time for sure. So yeah, that's my number 8.
Awesome. Macho.
Nice. Yeah, that's a great breakdown.
Yeah.
So my number 8 is it's an older game that I played earlier this year. So 2022 was a year of a lot of replaying some games, including the Batman Arkham series, but the one series I had never played, was always interested in, and finally delved into was the Castlevania series. And number 8 for me is Castlevania Bloodlines. Now, the Castlevania series have, as you guys, I'm sure you guys seen the anime that's on Netflix and stuff like that, and that's very like what medieval sort of times, right? Castlevania Bloodlines is the first game in that series that I know of that actually took place in the during World War I. So already we already got like a really different time period. You actually play as two different characters. You play as I forgot the first guy's. I think his name is John something, but he's the one that's with the whip. That's like the normal namestay weapon for the entire series. And he also plays a guy named Eric who um, uses a not a harpoon, but he uses a trident of sense. I'm lost on the actual like name of the weapon, but he used a trident basically. So that's what I used my first time playing the game, and it was just a visual, lyrical, like musical sort of treat for this entire game, man. I just fell in love with the Castlevania series right from the very first game that I played in the Castlevania Classic Collection, something like that on PlayStation,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just incredible. So playing through Bloodlines was just a ton of fun because the bosses were really fun, unique. Playing using actually a different weapon other than the whip was really refreshing, especially after I played like maybe 4 different Castlevania games at that point. Playing Bloodlines was just such a breath of fresh air for the series that it's so understated. Like this game is just it's a overlooked gem, I say, in the entire series, and just a action platformer in general. It's really good in terms of just the level design. Nothing feels like it overstays the welcome. Each boss is a nice, fun little challenge that gives you a different break in each area you're visiting. And since it is a different time period, you're actually going to places you had never been to in the Castlevania series before, like a factory or stuff like that. And it also has this one really cool level that I just remember very fondly because it was a challenge, but it was just super unique in what it did. And it was one of those levels where it has like a rising water, and you just had to completely maneuver your way around it. And there was some trial and error in it, but it was never frustrating, which is surprising because this game is like hella old. Um, but it was just one of those games that you could tell is ahead of its time. It was a ton of fun. The music is incredible, and it just stayed in my head throughout the entire year of like how much I enjoyed playing that game for the first time. So, Castlevania Bloodlines, that's number 8, man. Really good stuff.
Nice, man. Damn. Yeah. When you said the Castlevania collection, I was like, damn, all of them? Is that your number 8?
No, no, but all of them are really good. I had to decide which ones I wanted, but Bloodlines was the one that stuck out the most.
Okay. Okay. Well, my number 8 is a little game called Pokemon Violet. And this is a game I recently just started the end game in, but I rolled credits what was it, a couple days ago and whatnot. But I started playing in 2022, but I haven't stopped playing it. Uh, this game came out to a very controversial light because its performance was not good. It's not good. Uh, but that didn't really dissuade me from it. The first week that it came out, remember Macho and I, or at least I was just burning it on the coals, and I was not giving it the light of day, and I was really being unforgiving of it. And then the very next day, I bought it because I was like, it's
Oh, I
fun.
remember. I
As
remember
I
that
was
call
like,
Macho. I did something.
Macho, I'm a hypocrite. um, And I bought the game because it's Pokemon, and I've always been, Pokemon has been my Call of Duty. I've always bought it every single year that it's come out, and I've never regretted it. And to like, just to throw this in, a lot of people don't consider this like even their top 10, but I think like Pokemon Sun and Moon are like in my top 5 ever, and I love those games. So, in my opinion, has never been like in the majority, and I think Pokemon Violet has some of the best implements in a Pokemon game in history, in any Pokemon game. I think it has one of the best ideas, some of the best ideas in a Pokemon game. I think it has some of the biggest ambitions in a Pokemon game. However, it is pulled back by its poor performance. This is the first ever open world Pokemon game. They had mentioned that Arceus was going to be that, but no, that was an open zone game, as we call it here in the industry. And this one's the true one single area Pokemon game. Mind you, there is one other area that you have to load into, but that's like end game situation. Has your classic gym leaders and your classic rival group. Like the Team Rocket of this game is called Team Star. And you also you're a student. You're at this academy. There's professors. You can go to class. You can, answer questions, which just simple questions like from Pokemon lore, like, what type is strong against what type and whatever. What this game does very, very well is remind you that you're playing a Pokemon game. It really, really goes all into the battling and the having fun, in the sense that everything in the game is a festival, or there's a tournament, or or you're learning to be a trainer, or you're searching for that treasure, or the enemy group is not trying to, take over the world. They're just misunderstood. Like, this is the first ever Pokemon game where the rival team is just, oh, we were bullied, like type deal. And we kind of made our own club. This game has a lot of great ideas for the future. I think that the next Pokemon, hopefully, if Game Freak is given more time to optimize and flesh out certain things, I think the next Pokemon game will be amongst the greatest of all, hopefully. But this one, truly, where it lacks is it's an environment. Well, it's open world, and it's, you have snow mountain tops, you have lakes, you have swamps, you have bamboo forests. It's kind of not lush or it's not very detailed environments. If you go to the desert, yeah, it's all beige color, all sand colored, and there's a couple rocks and a couple ruins, and that's it. Like, there's no real indicator that it's a lush environment, unlike an Arceus, where there's a lot of leaves sticking out of the ground and a lot of weeds growing and a lot of trees that branches fall and whatever. Same with Pokemon Sun and Moon. You're in Alola, and the island feels truly tropical. And it feels like, you can see the fruits on the trees. You can see the rocks hitting the currents on the lakes. Here is that's a body of water. Here's one rock sticking out of it. That's pretty much it. Like, it's not very highly detailed. However, it takes away completely the encounter loading. You encounter a Pokemon and you stumble into that Pokemon, you instantly go into battle. There's no switching to a battle arena. You're battling that Pokemon right in the wild. You can throw a ball at a Pokemon, and while you're not capturing it, you throw it to indicate that you want to battle that specific Pokemon. You don't have to walk up to it. So this game really moves forward into the seamless encounter type deal, because it removes completely the loading into an encounter aspect. I think the story, this is the first time that's a lie. This is the second time. The first time was in Sun and Moon. This is the second time I'm invested in a Pokemon story. The story, there's actually 3 different paths that you have to do, and you can tackle them in which order you want. But to get the true, the true ending to the game, you need to complete all 3 paths, and then they'll all converge into one single point. That's a lot of fun. You can just do whatever at whatever pace you want. However, this suffers from the same thing that I think Elden Ring suffers, and we'll get into that later. And it's lack of focus. And it's that when you're given an open world this way and you're given freedom to pursue whichever path you want, you the company, the developers are tasked with making it where no matter what path you take, it feels like you're going up and not kind of like going up and down. While, you play Elden Ring, it's kind of like I can do whatever. But by the time that you fight Godric, maybe you're so over leveled, you one shot him. Maybe by the time you get to gym leader number 2, you breeze through the gym and you're not even struggling. While you have something like Sun and Moon, you really have to be prepared for this next gym because it's a fire type and you chose a grass type for some reason. And you have to really get a team that, can withstand fire attacks and whatnot. If you play a more focused game like a Sekiro, you have to be sure that you have the right prosthetic and the right art or art skill to defeat, I don't know, the monk or to defeat the guardian ape. But that's the only thing that's stopping you from progressing the story. While something like Pokemon Violet or Elden Ring, you don't really have a lot of barriers. You can just kind of do whatever. That's a good and a bad thing. For me, I can work around it, and I enjoy the game enough. The music is fantastic. It's Paldea, so it's like, I think it's Spanish based. It's based in Spain, so there's a lot of Spanish phrases thrown around, which I enjoy. They're not cringy. I think they're well implemented. I think this game would have been it would have gone from like a 7 for some people to almost a 10 if it had voice acting, because there's a lot of cutscenes, y'all. There's like actual cutscenes where they're talking and their mouth is animated to like speak those words, but there's no dialogue. What's that?
Is that new for a Pokemon game?
To have actual cutscenes where there's a lot of dialogue going on, yeah. Usually it's just like an event. Usually it's like there's a cutscene, but it's like, oh, a Pokemon is awakening and the legendary is here, and then you're battling. But this is where they have like full-on conversations during a cutscene. And it's not a cutscene where you're skipping through dialogue. No, it's like it's auto playing. And it's like animated, like hand-drawn, Contrary to like a Mario Rabbids and Kingdom Battle where it's animated, it's hand-drawn, but there's like dialogue going on and sound. This one's just the music in the background and maybe the Pokeball being thrown. And it's kind of, it's kind of disappointing when you can see the potential there. Because that's one thing that this game, continues to exceed, Pokemon continues to do. The design and the characters, fantastic. I love all the gym leaders. I love all the members of Team Star. I love the villain. I love your rival, which we went from Gary, which was a POS, to Nimona. That's just the most endearing, rival you'll ever have. There's no animosity. It's just, yeah, let's be the best, but then also let's be rival. It's not I hate you, I'm gonna be champion, I'm gonna crush you. We went away from that, and now we're more friendly territory, which some people like. I like it. Some people don't like. I still like it. But yeah, man, Pokemon Violet, a lot of great Pokemon. There's 400 Pokemon total in this one. Sadly, for a lot of people, they wanted the national dex. Somehow they wanted 1,000 Pokemon to be in one single game when they can barely run the game with 400 Pokemon. But hey, that's neither here nor there. I'm okay with 400. It's mostly the important ones, the ones that look the coolest, and are kind of like, play the coolest. And there's different type of Pokemon introduced that, I won't spoil, but it's really cool. It's like really what they did with Sun and Moon with Ultra Beast, where it's like a different type of like creature, they did here. And Violet and Scarlet differ incredibly in what type of creature they do. Violet is based on the future, and Violet, Turo, Futuro. Turo's the professor. It's very sci-fi heavy, and then Scarlet, Sada, Pasada. You have the professor, more like the past, and that one's more on ancient times. So this is the first time in a while where I can say buying both games they're different enough where you can buy both. It's not just a couple of exclusive Pokemon. The actual story changes quite a bit in the end. But yeah, man, that's my number 8. Fantastic game, y'all. Fantastic. I recommend it if you're a Pokemon fan. The performance issues and the glitches, I never had those. Maybe some pop-ups, but that's about it. I don't mind that.
Nice. Yeah, I knew Macho. I knew this dummy was gonna have that game on his list, man.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I
Um,
sir.
haven't gone back to it since like that first week, so it's on the list. But
It's so good, man. I'm playing it right now.
all right. So my number 7 is Destiny 2.
Whoa! Wait a minute. Wait. Wait. Whoa! What?
Why are you surprised?
You're wild, and it's in your top 10. I love that, dude. That was in my
Yeah.
top 10 when it came out. Oh my god, dude, you're kind of. I like you more now. All right, continue.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, so I mean Destiny 2 was I mean this was my first time playing it this year and I quickly got addicted to it. Um I really don't have a lot to say about it. The game was definitely like overwhelming at first because yeah, there is a lot to learn, especially since it's been out since what 2017 I want to say, and there's definitely been a lot of expansion packs and story stuff and just a lot of things have happened since when it initially released. But
Destiny
I think
2,
once
yeah.
but once you get over that initial hurdle, I just found myself addicted to it. I spent probably majority of my time in the Crucible just playing like team deathmatch, playing I think Rumble is the game mode, which is like a 3v3 kind of game mode, and
Elimination.
yeah, that's the
Yeah,
name.
Rumble's the free for
Um,
all.
Gotcha. Yeah, elimination. And yeah, it was just like I couldn't put it down for like a month and a half. Just literally, like it got to a point where like literally every the days that I had class, like I just like couldn't wait to get back home just to play more. And like before class, like I would be like, okay, let me just get like one more match in before I have to leave. Right? It honestly felt like the days when I was back when Halo 2 came out, and I would literally go to my friend's house. Me and like a group of friends would go to our friend's house that was like down the street. We would go to his upstairs like little loft area and play Halo 2 before the bus came in the morning to take us to middle school.
Yes, sir.
And then like we would hear the bus down the street and we'd be like, oh shit. We would put the controls down and literally run out of the house and try to run to the bus to make it in time. It literally felt like that from like literally trying to play as much as I could um before I had to leave. Um so yeah, and I got really obsessed with the gear system, getting the best possible gear to deck out my character in like the best, most like aesthetically pleasing way possible.
What did you
Um
choose for class?
the hunter, I think
Okay,
they're called.
okay. You're cultured. Okay, good. That was my first pick. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, not too much else to really say about it. I really enjoyed my time with it. I haven't really gotten back to it as much as I would like to, but yeah, I really loved my time with it. So yeah, that's my number 7, Destiny 2.
Yes, sir. Let me know in the future you hop on again, cause I'll do any excuse to get back to that game, man. The game's amazing.
Okay. Okay.
all right, my number 7 is a little game called Final Fantasy 14 Patch 6.3.
There
We s-
we go.
we send new
I'm,
games.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's not-
I was about to
I'm
riot
not
over
about
here,
to-
man. I'm about to
I'm
light
not
the
to
streets
put-
up.
I'm not putting a patch on my top 10.
Yeah, no, that would have been. I can expect you doing that and fighting for it.
No, Soul's ready. He was like, "Oh, here we go."
Here we go. Get that mug out.
No, number 7 actually belongs to another surprise of 2022, which was Live Alive. This was what I wanted from Octopath Traveler in the first place, which was a JRPG focusing on multiple characters and them converging into a party and eventually having a really satisfactory conclusion. And I never played through the entirety of Octopath Traveler, but from what I could gather of everything, it was just basically what I was not looking for. Alive was sort of the game I was hoping to actually be the answer to my prayers, and it absolutely was and more. Dude, this game is just awesome. I think one of the coolest things about Live Alive is Well, there's a couple super cool things, and one of them is the fact that the gameplay system is very simple, grid based. You get your own ability pool, and each character you play as has different, regular sort of stuff you see in JRPGs. Like they each have they specialize in their own classes and their own ways of playing. But the way that the actual gameplay, the grid based system, it's so simple but so effective because you're playing against. Well, the other really cool things I love about this game is that you're playing in different timelines, and each serve a greater purpose to the actual grander story. On top of that, excuse me, the gameplay again being so simple the way it is so effective, and it just works across every timeline, and it makes sense and super fun. And each timeline actually has their own gimmick to them. So there's one far off in the future where you play as a what was it? Well, you play just as a robot, right?
Yep.
Essentially you just play as a robot, and this playthrough is so different from the others. It just blew me away, where it's essentially a survival horror in some case or another.
It's legit Alien.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Alien Isolation, but just it compacted into this 1 to 2 hour little mini story, and it's so damn good. There's another one where it takes place in prehistoric times, and I think me and Walt talked about this before, where like your main character's poop is essentially like an attack from them.
And farts.
And farts, yeah. Oh yeah, it's their gorilla, like their caveman friend or ape friend.
Yep.
That has the poop attack. Yeah,
Yep.
and then your character's farts is like that's another different kind of attack from them.
Literally the definition of Unga Boonga.
Yeah, basically. And again, there's different timelines in here, so like you get like a different flavor from each one, and each has their own really cool and specific storyline that either you gravitate towards to or you'd be like okay about. But either way, I just kind of went through this entire thing, and I was just really enamored with the entire thing. I thought it was one, it's ahead of its time because it's an old JRPG that I think it was before Chrono Trigger, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But that was remade from the ground up on Switch, and I hope it comes to the PC platform so more people can play because it really is a gem. I think the end chapter is probably one of the best end sequences in a JRPG I've played in quite a while.
I agree.
Just gathering all the characters in one place and then going through your favorite and really harboring on their own skills and just trying to beat the boss at is definitely like a difficulty curve. Like you have to come correct. You have to come leveled in this final fight, or you are going to be demolished. Which happened to me. I actually had to restart like that chapter because I just came in not prepared. Yeah, Live Alive is just such a gem. I think the music is awesome too. It's one of my favorite JRPGs of last year, and I can't believe that that it was the answer to my prayers of what I wanted from Octopath Traveler. So I'm glad it exists, and I'm happy I got to play it.
It got the HT
number 7.
What is it? HD 2.5 remaster treatment, which is what Dragon Quest 3 is having that same treatment, and it's gonna be remastered or remade rather the same way that Live Alive was.
Yeah, it's all the better for it because these games are beautiful and to look at and just awesome to play. It's awesome. Yeah. So number 7, Live Alive.
100%. Speaking of JRPGs, my number 7 is Chrono Trigger.
You finished it?
I finished one of the endings. I finished one of the endings. I want to go back and get the true ending because I hear that there's like a literally twice the amount of length of this game if you do a certain path. Oh my god, this game is magical. This game is incredible. So Chrono Trigger, like, it's held by a lot of people as the greatest game of all time and also held as the best JRPG of all time. I can definitely see why. This game is the definition of your choices impact the overarching narrative. I think this game did it the best probably back in the day then. Like alongside games like a Live Alive, where like the way that you finish certain levels, the story will look a certain way or another. Same with the ending. There's like the ending of Live Alive. There's a couple of ways that it could go, but there's like one true ending to it. Chrono Trigger, you can finish the game in less than like I think 3 or 4 hours. but you can also beat it in like 20 to 30 hours. Like it very much depends on what you choose to do in the game. I played for like a solid, what was it, like 15 to 20 hours for the ending that I got. I definitely feel like I played nothing. I want to play more of it. I'm gonna play more of it. I played it on my Steam Deck. From the Steam version, which a lot of people are crapping on, but honestly, I don't have prior experience with Chrono Trigger, so this is the only thing I'm exposed to, and I am adoring it. I love Chrono Trigger. The characters are they're not, incredibly nuanced. You don't have characters with like 20 plus pages of like, monologue or whatever. You don't have like a dissertation's worth of a plot developing inside of them, but they're like the tried and true like kind of archetypes in a JRPG setting. You have the classic knight looking to restore his honor. You have the princess that has rebellious nature and she wanna find her own path and not be tied to royalty. You have the scientist that wants to, use her inventions for good because a lot of the future, because the game plays a lot with timelines, a lot of the future people that use technology are kind of not aligned on the great path, so she wants to do it for good. And there's just so much going on in the environment, in the world. So because time travel is such a big part of it, Chrono Trigger, Chrono being related to time, Chrono being the main character, you trigger these, don't, no pun intended or intended, for Macho calls me a weakling.
Attend your pun weekly.
I think that a lot of the ways that time travel is utilized is it's it's complicated enough to where you can understand it. It's not like overly like convoluted. I think it's like straight to the point. This is like what we're doing. That we're not explaining more of it. Like this is the time travel. That's it, and it works. And you can go back and forth. There's the classic hub area in like in the middle of nowhere, like in time. I think like this is like one of the first games that did like the outside of reality space that a lot of JRPGs started to do in the future. It's a beautiful game. Like it looks beautiful. It's what would that be, like 8-bit or is that 16-bit?
I think that would be 16-bit.
16-bit, yeah. It's the 16-bit
or even 32-bit. I think
32-bit. Okay, it's pixelated. It's gorgeous. The battle system. So I think this is also one of the first games that did, after Final Fantasy. I don't know if this did come after or before Final Fantasy 6.
I believe it came before. So I think it came before 6. I think it even came before Final Fantasy 4, if I'm not mistaken.
So this game is one of the first games JRPGs to implement an active time battle system. So you can choose between the classic, turn-based where time stops and you can choose and whatever. But that's not as fun. This game was made to play it as an active time battle system where, there's always a bar like increasing, and once it fills up, it's your time to attack. And if you don't attack, it'll stay filled up, but the enemy is gonna keep attacking you. Like you need to act. It's a lot of fun to play around with. There's no.
I'll say the influence real quick just to interject. I think the influence here is that live walks of Chrono Trigger can run.
Right.
And Chrono Trigger is seen as the grandfather of a lot of JRPGs for certain foundations. So. Mm-hmm. Including the active time battle system and a couple other stuff. But yeah, continue.
I'd agree. No, I agree. And honestly, I felt so much joy playing this game because it gave me a nostalgia that I don't have. When something like kind of like reminds you of a time that you didn't really experience, but you've heard of so much through a lot of people and a lot of like your older relatives. And back in my day, we had a basement where we would play games and it was full of VHSs, and we had our original N64 or whatever, or original NES, and it reminds you of a time that you didn't live through, but you're kind of glad you're kind of like re-experiencing this like old school narrative through a new hardware. Because I play this through a Steam Deck, and it's incredible to play this old ass game that doesn't feel that old on such a new hardware. The music, oh my god, if we were making a top 10 OSTs, this is number one. It is
Just wait till you get that true ending. I guarantee you're gonna feel something you never felt in a game before.
Bro, this game reminds me why I love games. Like this is one of those games that I'm just glad that I'm in this medium and I enjoy this medium. Cause if not for this game, like I don't know how I'm able to appreciate FF7 remake even more. Cause truly, if not for Chrono Trigger, a lot of the JRPGs today would not be what they are. Like this just feels like it's like the beginning of something beautiful, and I just cannot wait to jump back into it, because it's like the paths are very different. Legit, you can jump into the last area as soon as you're introduced to like the lore of the main bad guy. But if you do that, that's one ending. That's not really the ideal ending. To get the true ending, you have to hop around a lot of timelines, and that's so much fun. I can't. I'm probably gonna be doing the true ending this year, and I can't wait to get back into it, because it's not a slow game. It's a pretty fast game. Like it's not rushed. It's just like it introduces the plot pretty like consistently in a great way. That's my number
How
seven,
cool
man.
how cool is it too that every time when you go to the world map, music changes, but you definitely hear like the DNA of the original in
It
there.
does. It changes. It's like
Love
when
it, yeah.
you listen to the Ragnarok soundtrack, how you can still hear the sampling, but it's a different. It's composed differently, but you can hear the same melody in the background. Same with Chrono
Yeah.
Trigger. The essence, which I'm not gonna hum it because I'll sound like a buffoon. But that's classic when you're in the main screen, the music that plays, you can hear that differently also throughout the entire game. Oh man, that what a masterful, what a masterpiece of a game. Well, what an incredible game. I can't wait to jump back into it. It's a game that I see myself like doing like you with Lord of the Rings, like annually, maybe playing it through it, because it's not, again, it's not a long game. I can see myself doing like a playthrough annually. It's a lot of fun. That's my number
Nice,
seven.
nice. Number 7. Okay. So my number 6 is a Plague Tale Requiem.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So played a little bit more of it. I'm still not done. I still want to string that last that last chapter.
Gotta do it.
Um, but yeah, Plague Tale Requiem is just a really nice sort of like continuation, or just like building upon of what they did with Innocence. My favorite thing about this game is just like where they take both Amicia and Hugo. I really love stories that like push their characters to the limit, and I feel like Requiem does a really good job of like pushing both of these characters like literally to their breaking point, and you get to see that, especially with Amicia, especially with Hugo towards the end as well. And yeah, I think gameplay wise, it adds it has a few nice little additions to change up the formula. The stealth I feel like is a lot tougher this time around. I feel like, I don't know if you felt the same way, Walt, but I feel like I was retrying a lot of sections in this game versus Innocent. I maybe did not do that a ton. But yeah, in this game, I definitely felt I felt like the enemies were a lot tougher. Like the whole detection rules were a lot stricter this time around. Like these guys, once they see you, you're like, I feel like you're done, man. Like you might as well just like retry that section of the level, because like you're not getting out of that one alive.
This game made me appreciate the SSD more, because I was loading up a lot, loading in a lot.
Yep. I also really appreciate that they added that you actually get to like kill people this time around, but it's not like you don't go like guns blazing. It's something that it's like a get out of jail free card. Like it should only be like a last resort. So I really appreciate the introduction of the knives and the crossbow, and the fact that it is so scarce, and that it should only be a last resort kind of thing. Um, but really, aside from that, I think the the story in general, it can sometimes go over your head, but I think the whole stuff with the macula does come and loop around in a smart way towards the end, and it makes sense towards the end.
Yep.
Um, but the main crux of this game at its core, the thing that worked for me the most was the relationship between Amicia and Hugo. Um, and again, just Amicia's sort of like descent into like madness over trying to protect her brother, like her literally like losing herself over, just trying to protect her brother. I thought was really, really cool to see. The music, again, we've talked about the music is absolutely outstanding. Um, I think graphically there are some sections in this game that are like on par with like Horizon Forbidden West. It looks absolutely stunning. Um, and yeah, I mean I think that's pretty much it. I think a lot of the set pieces were really, really cool. Um, Again, the rats is just always like I feel like they always find a way to do something to put you like they always find a way to do something with the rats that is like not necessarily like you've never seen before, but like it always catches you off guard, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like they just use the rats in smart and interesting ways periodically throughout the game. Um, that always just kind of makes me feel like, oh, okay, like I was not expecting this, but yeah.
It,
Um,
real quick,
Go ahead.
so to that point, you mentioned stealth earlier, and this, I know if Maddie plays. We know of him, right? We all know of him. Uh, he reviewed this game, and he mentioned a very specific thing that this does in terms of stealth. Is that typically games in stealth, you're trying to hide in the shadows. In this game, you're trying to hide in the light, and it's so interesting how you kind of play around with light in that way, because you also have to be aware of the rats and the guards. But the guards can't get to you unless they have the means to, because they also are affected by the rats. So it's a situation where it's a 1v1v1, you know? It's not a 2v1, you know? It's not a 3v1. It's everyone's up for themselves. And there's even a point where you're like there's a trophy related to something about a guard, and uh you can choose whether or not to kill this specific guard. um I don't know what you did. I didn't kill that guard, and he was able to just be unconscious, but you're able to just either kill him or not because he helped you during a level. uh and it's interesting how this game kind of questions who really is out to get who. And I love that how they integrate that into stuff. Really fun game. And very, very dark game. Very, very gross game. You say that there's a lot of parts like Horizon. There's a lot of parts like goddamn Scorn. There's some parts where you're walking through corpses and blood and shit, and oh my god, it is vile, but it is so good.
Yeah, it's a nice, obviously over exaggerated, but it's still like a nice representation of like what I would imagine the Black Plague
Yeah,
that era kind of was.
yeah. It's like
The whole
imagine that,
the
but
whole
like minus times 10, minus times 10.
like the whole thing about like they would mark doors that contained infected people inside, like that
Yep.
that kind of era. Um, yeah, so really, really great game. This was one of the games that I was like really looking forward to for 2022, and I'm glad that they stuck the landing. Um, so yeah, that is my number six. A Plague Tale Requiem.
Amen, brother.
All right, nice. Sounds good. If I wasn't so scared, I would play it. All right, so my number six is speaking of scares, Parasite Eve.
Woohoo!
Is my number six.
Yes,
This game
sir.
took me by surprise, completely. That's what I love about the games that I saw on my list. A lot of them were games that either I put off or I didn't expect to love so much and ended up absolutely just adoring. And Parasite Eve is one of them. It's a beautiful marriage of classic Resident Evil and Square Enix JRPGs. I feel like this was really the 90s for Square Enix. It's like really their peak because it just blended so much creativity. It was all the leads really just going all in on whatever crazy idea they had pumped out, and one of them is Parasite Eve. The level design, it's absolutely incredible. You play as this cop called Aya Brea, and this whole game is based on a novel that was written from the same name, I believe. But you play as Aya Brand, and she goes to an opera house. It's literally the opening of the game, and then all of a sudden, the opera singer ends up, what was it? She just mutating or something like that,
She
right, Walt?
legit just goes, "Oh, by the way, let me turn into an abomination."
Yeah, just right in the middle of the performance. And then next thing you know, everybody in the audience just sets on fire and things are going crazy. And the only one that's actually alive is Aya. So she's investigating throughout the entire the stage and theater, trying to look for the culprit here, where she's at. And you learn that like this whole other situation going on with the mitochondria, how it's become its
Oh,
own being.
Barry, explain
Uh,
real quick, Macho.
yeah, yeah.
The for those that don't know, they truly go like mitochondria. They don't name something. No, they truly go for the powerhouse of the cell. Like the that aspect of the cell is like a huge point and element in the story. Like they actually talk about scientifically like the mitochondria, and that's like a big part into it. It's like when typically you look at like a sci-fi game and they like, oh yeah, that's the mitochondria, and they're talking about an alien called the mitochondria or something. But no, in this case, it's like no, it is the powerhouse of the cell. They don't diverge from that. Continue.
Right, yeah. So essentially, the mitochondria kind of it evolved into this other sort of uh, omniscient being that they want to infect other people with their knowledge and their superiority in the sense of their evolution of what they can be and what they see humans can be. And it just evolves into this whole other crazy sort of wild ride for Aya and her other I think her boss, like one of her detective friends, and then another scientist that you befriend along the way on stopping this mitochondria called Eve. And I love those little things. I love those little like Catholic Christian kind of callbacks where Eve obviously is from Adam, the story of Adam and Eve, basically like the first humans in Christianity religion and stuff like that. So I love those kind of little nods to religion like that because it's so powerful and it's so well known that you can immediately understand where the whole philosophy around it
Mm.
surrounds where it comes from. So Parasite
Shout
Eve
out to
definitely.
religion, y'all.
But Parasite Eve just does such a great job of setting that foundation, that story throughout the entire game, and as well as just the gameplay of it. It's again mix of Resident Evil versus Square Enix JRPG. So you're gonna be finding collecting items, and you're gonna go through some weird puzzles in the gameplay and design. Um, and then when you're actually engaging in combat, it's not random because you actually I think it is actually right. You stopped as random encounters, so you stop in where you are, and then you get face off the enemies. But you actually have an active time bar. You have to play
Yeah.
around with that. You actually you get to get ailments, you get potions, and you have a limited amount of bullets, so you actually have to use it sparingly and stuff like that. So a lot of it is strategic, and you can't just fire off at the hip all the time. You have to be really conscious of how many bullets do you have and what you should use them on, stuff like that.
Yeah.
The only time the game actually lost me quite a bit was near the end, where since it is an old school JRPG,
Mm.
um, there's a moment that has like a Resident Evil like sequence where you just can't get touched or you die, and
Oh.
it's very much trial and error, where you have to figure out where you need to go in order to do it. But once I actually got it done, it was very satisfactory and just made me wish that Square Enix would bring it back because it's so unique and different. I feel like they were to remake it would definitely be a big seller for people. Um, yeah, it's such a great game, and I wish more people would play it. I wish it'd be talked about more, but that's why it's in my top 10. So number 6 is Parasite Eve.
Awesome, man. All right. Well, my my number 6 is Tales of Arise. And this game I actually properly felt like I played it last year. Although probably I remember starting it not in 2022. However, I remembered that I bought it. Nothing else. When I actually dived into it this year, last year rather, I um I had to refresh on what the hell I was doing because I had left off this game for like a year and a half and I really had no idea what I was doing. I did it because we know we have a JRPG infested podcast here. where someone doesn't shut up about them. So I had to jump back into it, and I do not regret it. I
Well,
put
you're very welcome then.
I thank you. I went from having almost no time into the game to having a total of 70 hours just to complete it, just to finish rolling credits on it. And those 70 hours were not wasted. I had that was 1 week, by the way. I beat that game in a week. I played nothing but Tales of Arise for a straight week, and I loved every single moment of it. It's, I think, the gold standard for a Tales game. Contrary to how I feel about Final Fantasy X being my first one, and not thinking that's the gold standard for a Final Fantasy, but it's still like the most precious to me. I still think Tales of Exilia deserves a much needed remaster or remake for the current gen. Just port that. Come on, I need to play that. This Tales of Arise, it's a gold standard just in JRPGs in general. I know, a friend of the show, Flame, has certain opinions about it that are fair, and but also, he didn't really go the whole way through. And similar to how I haven't gone the whole way through Triangle Strategy, he considers that game of the year. And saying how I can't see how that's possible because I haven't completed it, I can see how he can view Tales of Arise in a certain light, because unless you truly put in the hours into this game, you're not gonna see, like, what is it, reap the fruits of your labor or whatever. You're not gonna be able to see the actual like rewards that this game gives you, not in terms of just like weapons and whatnot, but story. Like this game has a second intro. Okay, when you start a JRPG and you boot it up, turn on your PlayStation, put on, I don't know, Final Fantasy, whatever the hell. There's a movie, a little scene in the beginning, it's either animated or it's like pieces of the game all into one. It's an intro movie. This game has one, right? It's really fun. It's really like high energy. It's, they're battling monsters. You're about to go into this big adventure. But then you get to a certain point in the story where you think you're about to finish the story. And what it does is it's a different intro. And now when you boot up the game, it's not the same intro anymore. It's a different intro with different plot points, different stories, different characters. And I'm like, am I playing a completely different game? There's a part 2 to this game. In the game. Like, this game does not stop. And when you think it's just one more area. No. You finish like the main first story, there's a whole other planet like that you can go to. And there's like a whole different dungeon, which admittedly that is one of the most BS dungeons ever. Not in terms of unfairness, but oh my god, was it hard. That final dungeon in Tales of Arise gave me some of the biggest headaches in a JRPG. Luckily, I trusted my instinct in grinding, so I grinded away to the point where I could not one shot, because you cannot one shot in this game. Where I could just kind of auto play everything. Like, you can just leave everyone on auto play and just play as one character, because you can switch between characters during battle. Tales is a very specific type of franchise where battles are not based solely on the encounter factor, but it's based on stamina or what's it called, APs, where it's like active points or just energy points that you can use to execute a movement. Because
same system from Tales of Berseria.
Right. Like the Tales games have this mechanic where it's not turn-based. It's like it's active time battle, but you can't just keep mashing and mashing, because you have a certain amount of points that you have to use until it refills back up. But then that's where a lot of the strategy comes into it, with like different types of armor and different types of weapons, where you can, but for every 7-hit combo, you can recover 1 energy point. So now you're doing these crazy combos, like almost nearly infinite combos, because you just keep getting more and more and more energy points because you have this one buff or something. The animation, like the visuals on this game are insane. It's a beautiful, beautiful game. The particles go hard. Like, if we're talking about particles, this game has those particles down to a T. Like, whenever the the magic is going on, because magic is like a very, very, very pivotal aspect of this game. Because typically in a fantasy setting, it's like, oh yeah, people use magic. No. Magic here, you're ostracized for using magic. In this game, you either are royalty or you're a peasant with magic. Like there's no in between. And that's another thing. Similar to Triangle Strategy, this game deals with a lot of political situations. Not political, in the party like situation, but like in like dictatorships, or the monarchy, or who is fit to rule, who isn't. And it really dives into it the more you go through the game, and at the end it goes. I'd say that the game becomes more simple the closer you are to the end, because a lot of the complicated stuff is kind of like in the first 2/3 of the third sequence, if that makes sense, Macho. Like once you finish the battle with Volron, it gets complicated because they have to explain what is the truth of the world that you live in and the universe and whatever the hell. I won't spoil it, but they talk about the reality of reality. And once you get all of that, the very, very ending is like, I get everything that's happened. So this outcome is like pretty simple in the way that it's executed, but it's super effective and it's super epic. It goes from political intrigue to haha swords, but it's fun. It's not diminishing in any way, shape, or form. I think it's a lot of fun. And I think it enters this, like you said, JRPG, type deal where at the end it's just a lot of fighting, and there's barely any like wiggle room for doing anything else. Like once the point of no return truly is the point of no return, and it's only fighting and fighting and fighting. And I'd say this game makes you think one thing at the beginning, and then makes you think that the outcome is one, but then it really does a 180. It does one of the biggest 180s I've seen in a JRPG. Like I did not expect the truth for what it was. I was dumbfounded. Oh my god. It talk about sci-fi and fantasy being implemented in a beautiful way. This game did it perfectly. Like the way that it reminded me kind of like Phantasy Star, and how that, kind of mixes fantasy and sci-fi. This game reminded me very much in the third act. Voice acting was great. I played it in English. Voices were great. The voice of Law is the voice of Eren Jaeger and Tanjiro. So a lot of familiar voices in the game. I have their moves screaming in my mind still, because they don't shut up. They keep saying the moves over and over every time they execute it, and that's classic anime. I don't hate it. It's a part of the deal I made to play JRPGs. Yeah, man, what a beautiful game. And the music, oh my god, the visual, everything about this game is beautifully executed. And I cannot wait to go back and platinum it, because the platinum it's a long way. It's a lot to do. There's a lot to do for that platinum, but I can't wait. It doesn't feel like busy work. It feels like it's gonna be worth it, and I can't wait, man.
Nice. Yeah, so we are now currently like halfway, right? So we've
Yep,
all
number 5.
Yeah, we're on our number 5. So I will kick things off with mine being Horizon Forbidden West. My number 5.
Nice.
I'm curious to see where Macho has it in his, and if Walt's little bird brain ass even has it in his top. Yeah, so number 5 is Horizon Forbidden West. I think in just about every conceivable way, this is an improvement on Zero Dawn. If you're talking about visuals, quality of life improvements, the combat, they've all made like the necessary improvements. The biggest thing for me is I just prefer the story in Zero Dawn versus Forbidden West. I just found it a lot more interesting, discovering why the world is the way it is and how it ultimately ended up the way that it is. That was a major draw and hook for me in Zero Dawn, and in Forbidden West that necessarily wasn't there, but there was still a lot to love in Forbidden West's story. specifically with the side characters. I really loved characters like Katalo and his story and just him dealing with him feeling inferior with his disability. I thought that was a really powerful little plot line with him. I really loved Beta just learning about that character. So yeah, there was definitely a lot to love with that, but I think Forbidden West, the side quests really shined. Oh, also shout out to Alva. I really enjoyed her. Um,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I felt like the side quests really shined in this game. And also the sort of, I guess, the quote unquote, like what people would consider like busy work, but like the sort of like open world activities that you would do this time around, I thought was really cool. Um, specifically, and we talked about this all the time, but specifically the tall necks this time around, just like they weren't the classic. No tall neck was approached the same way, and I felt like this was really smartly built off of what they did with the Frozen Wilds, because the tall neck in that game, like, or sorry, in that DLC, there was like an actual like process that you needed to go through in order to unlock that specific tall neck. And I feel like they took that concept and they just like ran with it in Forbidden West, because like each tall neck uh needs like a different approach in order to actually like unlock it. My favorite one was the one that was like actually like it didn't finish like being constructed inside the cauldron. I thought that was a really cool moment, and then like it kind of like coming out of the cauldron and you coming up with it, and the music
Yeah.
swelling when all that is happening. It's just like one of the standout moments in that game for me. Um, Also, Talana, yeah, shout out to Talana. She's a great character too. I love her. I'm disappointed that like I guess one of my biggest disappointments was her not being in the main cast. I really thought that was like a shoe-in, that she would be, sort of in that main group in the wherever Guy is. I forget what it's called, but like yeah, I wanted more of her. She was one of my favorite characters in Zero Dawn, and like yeah, her side quest was cool, but I wanted so much more of her. Um, so hopefully in the next game we do. But yeah, really enjoyed my time with Forbidden West. Loved the glider. Thought it was a really cool addition. Just like one of my favorite things to do in that game was just like reaching the tallest peaks that I could possibly find and just hopping off and using the glider to slowly get back down to the bottom. Um, Love that. Would love them to continue chipping away and improving on the melee combat for the next game for sure. Um, I really thought the machines that they introduced this time around were really all great additions. Um, things like the Tide Rippers or the Slither Fangs, were all just like super fun to fight each time you ran across them in the world.
Or the elephant.
But yeah, the elephants, the Tremor Tusks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, man, just an all around, just a solid game. And I don't think they could get away with this sort of like, because like from Zero Dawn to Forbidden West, it wasn't like a leap; it was more of like a step, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which understandably so. Like again, I hold the opinion that not every if you're making a sequel, it does not need to be a leap every single time. But I don't think that they could get away with this sort of like step for the next game. I do think for Horizon 3, it does need to be a leap. Um, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what they introduced to make it feel like that leap, but I do feel like they need to do that for Horizon 3 without a doubt. Um, yeah, really enjoyed my time with Forbidden West, and that is why it is in my top 5.
All
Awesome.
right, cool. To kick off my top five, it's a game that was already talked about here, but Sifu.
Yes, sir.
That this was actually a little higher in my original list, but it makes number five on this new revised one for me. Everything that Walt talked about, I just absolutely fell in love. I did make fun of the game initially because every time a trailer would come out, it did sound like the main character was hitting wet blankets. Um, whether you want to call that realistic or whatever case may be, but as soon as this game just released, now seeing some more gameplay and sort of the hype around it, I decided to give it a try, and let me just tell you, it was one of those games that I was just absolutely addicted to. So what you're talking about before with Destiny, how you just wanted to come back from school or work and just wanted to immediately play it. That's how I felt with Sifu. I kept thinking about it all day, every day. I was absolutely obsessed with just the gameplay mechanic of just dying to restarting and getting everything perfect. And I think the reason why is because the gameplay was just so sound. The level designs were incredible. Um, it felt great to play. It felt like I was playing a kung fu movie, and I think that was the whole intention behind it. And it just brought me back to Rush Hour, brought me back to those Jet Li movies I used to watch with my dad, the Jackie Chan movies as well. I used to watch with him all the time that we
Bro,
read
the
from the
hallway
library.
scene.
Yeah, the hallway scene. Yeah, yeah. It just reminded me of like those really great times. I used to go with my dad to the library. He would pick out the VHS and would pick like the next Jackie Chan movie or something, and because we both were just kung fu movie fanatics growing up, so it hit a really cool spot for me with this game, and just the perfectionist part of it. Again, something that I wasn't really hell bent on because stuff like Neon White and a couple, and even Ghost Runner, like games where you need to be perfected in your gameplay, it kind of turns me off in a sense. But for Sifu, I think it was just more like the gameplay aesthetic and the actual combat, and maybe you just want to go for it endlessly. And I ended up actually doing it and getting the platinum in both on PS4 and PS5. Um, and I will do it all over again. The game was just incredibly fun, and I love it to bits and pieces. And it's one of my favorite action games of all time. So it makes number 5 for me.
Yes, sir. Uh, yeah, no, that game is phenomenal, and I hope they what I don't know what they're gonna do next. I don't know if it's Seafood 2 or whatever, but just that combat, I can't wait to see what they do next with whatever mechanic they use to in their combat and mechanics.
And
Uh,
speaking of that, I think I just real quick, I
yeah,
think
yeah.
the community response to it too was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love the mods that were added to it after the fact. The people putting in Batman or there was a couple.
Neo.
I think so. Yeah, someone put Neo. I think someone put John Wick in there too,
Yep.
and Korra. So the mods for this game on PC are absolutely incredible and makes me want to go replay it just with the different kind of character. But yeah, super cool stuff.
Yes, sir. And coming in for my number 5, to Soul's dissing, it is Horizon Forbidden West.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, this game, I was late to the party to beating it because I started it when it came out, but I got sidetracked with Elden Ring, so I kind of just left it to the side and I didn't really come back to it. I wasn't mentally in the right place to play it. But as soon as I got back into it, oh man, what a special game. I do agree, Soul. It does improve on quality of life, gameplay wise, like everything that's technical about this game is by far exceeds what Zero Dawn did. I will say, yeah, I agree with the story aspect, only in the sense that the first one did better because you're finding out this for the first time, and finding out about that old world. And there's only so much you can find out about it, because then by the time Forbidden West starts, it's all about Aloy. It's more about Aloy. I think Zero Dawn was Elizabeth's story, and this is more Aloy's story, like front and center, and beta for sure.
Yeah.
I'd say that this game left a bigger impression on me with the story because things like Nemesis and the Zeniths, like I was dying to know about the sci-fi aspects of the Horizon universe, something that the first one didn't really have a lot. It had more of the meeting the different tribes, and although this one does it, the first one focused more on that. This one, knowing how immortality is achieved, or knowing how science is achieved, or knowing how these machines were looked at. I don't know, the different ways that the people that were able to become a Zenith, or become a part of the Zenith, how everything went for them, how things go beyond the stars. Like it did all of that, which it just made the experience that much better. And also just the visuals. I think this is the most beautiful looking game, period. I think this is the most beautiful looking game. Like, there's no world that looks as good as this one. if we're gonna be competing with another one, I'd say put Horizon against Red Dead Redemption 2's world, and those two worlds are like neck and neck in terms of how absolutely like nuanced they are and polished they are and lush and varied because they all have the classic biomes of snow and sand and all this, but they're habited and they feel like they exist, like they're real. Like when you go through the jungle, you can see Aloy going through the branches and the leaves, and they move when they pass through them. When she passes through them, and if you're going through the sand, you can see all the footprints left behind by her, or by the animal that she's riding. It's such a beautiful world. I only want to return to it just to like if I could just return for the one thing, it would be just to like be in it and do what you do, like go to the highest mountaintop and glide and ride. I was gonna say ride a silverback. There's no silverbacks in this. I was gonna say bristleback or something, and ride some animal. Just do the entire map and just ride along the entire map. I want to do the platinum eventually for this game, because I feel like there's a lot of side content that I owe myself to revisit that I never really dived into because the story I was enthralled by the main story, and I wanted to see more of it and more of it. And like you mentioned, Kotalo and Alva and Zoe. Oh my God, what a character! Like she really evolves through this game, and the different twists with the story and that final third act is so epic and so much fun. It truly feels like you're fighting for humanity, and I love that there's actual stakes on the line. And you feel it, and the world is ever changing. Oh my God, it's so good. It's such a good, and the performances are fantastic. I don't go to this game thinking, oh, I'm gonna look at the performances of a lifetime, but they really are damn good. They're really damn good. Yeah, man, this is my number 5. You pretty much talked about more of what I thought about it, so there it is. It's number 5. Soul. What's your number 4, huh?
Let me go check because I did not. Okay. Man, this is actually surprising me a little bit.
Yeah.
I thought this would be a little bit higher. My number 4 is Roller Drome.
Whoa. I did expect
Okay.
that to be higher.
Yeah.
Wow.
What can I say about this game? This is probably like bar none the game that I had the most fun with in 2022. Roller Drome. So essentially, for people who don't know, it is like a death roller derby tournament style game where it's been described as Tony Hawk with guns essentially. So you're put into these arenas where again, so sort of like a Neon White or a Ghost Runner, where you're trying to get as high of a score as possible at the end of each level. But you are rollerblading and you do all these tricks to get the highest score that you possibly can. But at the same time, you need to kill all the enemies in the arena. The cool thing about this game is that you have multiple weapons, but you only have a little bit of ammo. But the way to reload your weapons is by doing tricks. So every time you pull off a successful trick, you fully reload, or you reload your gun a little bit. So that's a really, really cool like little touch. The other cool thing that this game does in comparison to a thing like Tony Hawk is that you can never fall. So it always like your momentum is just like always like momentum is a very important thing. So you never fall. And that may seem like a bad thing, like it removes the challenge, but it really doesn't. It just means that you can like focus on like your tricks more so. Um, but yeah, I again this game had the addiction factor for me where I just like I couldn't put it down. And similar to Neon White, it was that thing where like you can knock out these levels in like a minute, maybe 2 minutes at max. They're very quick, and again, it's that thing where like you see that you got like a B score on a level, and you're like, okay, I know I could do that way better. So you immediately hop back in and restart it, and you try again, and you try to improve your score. Um, that game had that for me, just like over and over and over again, where like I just kept chipping away at these levels, until I got like an S tier score or whatever. Um, yeah, it is just like the definition of fun. I had an absolute blast with this game. Um, just thinking about like and like there's a little bit of strategy with it too because each weapon is you have your dual pistols, you have your shotguns, you have your rocket launchers, but each weapon or each enemy needs a sort of different approach to them. So like the regular enemies, they're best taken out with the dual pistols, but then you have shield enemies that will need to be killed with shotguns, for instance. And then you have like giant mechs, for instance, that will need rocket launchers. So like your ability to bounce back and forth between these weapons, while there are multiple enemy types in a given level, it just gets very chaotic, very, very quick. But that's where the fun is when you're juggling, switching between weapons on the fly when you're getting shot at from every which direction, while you're also trying to get the best possible score, while you're also trying to worry about the time limit and all these different things, right? It can seem very overwhelming and chaotic, but I think that's where the fun really, really shines. Um, Not to mention they have the classic Tony Hawk style like objectives of like, hey, hit this specific high score, or do this specific trick over this gap, or kill 5 enemies with this specific weapon, or collect all the tokens in the level, right? That adds just a whole new wrinkle to each level, and it makes it even more fun. Yeah, this game was just like start to finish was just a blast. It was one of those games that I think it was revealed actually in 2022 and came out in 2022, and it was just like one of those things that you saw in a state of play that just like immediately stood out. And remember, like it was that state of play that Resident Evil 4 remake was revealed for the first time, and Street Fighter 6 was revealed for the first time, and then we had Final Fantasy 16 close out that state of play, and like Roller Drome was just like, and to me, it like stood amongst those giants as like one of the most interesting games in that state of play. And like I just like as soon as you saw it in motion, you're like, oh, like this is something like I need to play. And I'm so glad that it hit as well as it did. Um, this isn't even like touching on the art style, which I think is just absolutely gorgeous. That sort of cell shaded look, and the music as well just hits. It's like appropriately just like blood pumping, I think. And yeah, man, it's just what a fun game Roller Drum is. I still hop in it. Well, actually, so like I hadn't played it in a while, and I just like hopped into like a few games last night just to kind of like refresh my mind and like how I felt about it. And it's just so crazy how like I hadn't played it in weeks, and like just how quickly like muscle memory comes back, and you just like remember immediately like everything about that game, and like what to do, how to tackle certain situations, how to strategize certain levels. It just like never leaves you, and I think that's like the mark of like a really, really good like pick up and play kind of game, but also tough to master. And yeah, and I imagine that's probably like that would be like the same thing for like Sifu.
Yep.
But yeah, that's Roller Drum, man. Just what an awesome game.
Nice, man. Every time you talk about it, I get even more interested in playing it, but because I know that once I start playing it, but if it's a small doses, then I feel like it's a game that you can pick up and kind of play in between any games that you're playing, right?
Oh, for sure. That's why I still have it on my hard drive. Like I can when I initially finished it, like I would, yeah, just play it in between, like just because again the matches only take like maybe no more than a minute. So yeah, it's definitely something that you can just like hop in there for like a quick level, hop out, and then play like the main game that you're playing, and then yeah, just kind of do that.
Is there a lore behind the things that you're doing, or
There's actually a story. There's like some first person sections that you kind of get to learn about like the people you're competing against, and sort of the cyberpunk-esque company that overruns or oversees the whole thing, right? Which is it's pretty interesting. It's actually not
oh,
not bad.
it
So
reminds me of
yeah.
Alita, kind of, because in Alita there is this game that's like a roller type deal where you're like trying to kill other contestants, and it's a cyberpunk, like, corporate greed type deal. Oh man, that
For
sounds
sure.
great.
Yeah, it's awesome, man.
All right, Macho.
Cool. So number four is already talked about in Lent's Horizon Forbidden West. This sits in my top five for sure. Again, you guys really touched on it pretty eloquently, and we touched on it throughout the entire year. I said before, how it was my favorite PlayStation exclusive when we kind of jot down like our favorite PS exclusives in the prior podcast. And I still stand by that. I think the story isn't as strong as something for me like what The Last of Us One is,
Mm-hmm.
but as far as everything else, this just does what I love about open world games and more. The technical aspect, it looks beautiful. Like I'm so surprised, like I'm so just bewildered the fact that this game could look this beautiful and run so damn well. It's mind-boggling. The devs at Guerrilla Games deserve all their roses for how this game runs and how beautiful it is and what technical wizardry they're able to do for it. On top of that, actually just have a game with a lot of heart in it. The machines are beautifully designed and fun to fight against. I think one of my favorite things about this game, though, is not just the side quests and how deep and varied and worth doing they are, and not just exploring the beautiful world. The One of my favorite parts about this game is the deeper gameplay that you get involved in with the skill tree and just absolutely adhering to your kind of play style. I remember I think it was Steven Totila, who's one of he was the editor in chief over at Kotaku, and he was asking people, "Hey, what sort of gameplay play style should people on Horizon Forbidden West go to?" And I had a full explanation of like, "Oh, you can do this, you can do that," and a lot of other people chimed in. It was cool seeing that kind of variety in people's play styles and how they actually tackle this game. And one of my favorite ways to do that was first use the bow and arrow and melee because I like being up front and center. I like, you know, exploiting different weaknesses and stuff like that. But then I started getting into bombs and traps and how effective that was. And just taking your own outfit, not outfit, but like your own armor that you get to build and enforce and upgrade throughout the entire game and just tailor to your own kind of playstyle. I thought that was really cool and effective for what they did in this game. And some playstyles are more favored than others for sure. But I think just tackling that sort of variety in gameplay for this huge game was really important. I think they really hit it on all fronts there. I really love that aspect, and it's one of my favorite things about this game for sure. Um, yeah, just exploring those different bombs and traps, and at the same time, also having the cool different weapons that you got in this game as well, like the spear. I thought that was a really great addition. I use the exploding one, so sometimes I'll just set up traps around a claw strider or one of the other bigger enemies. Like I forgot what it's actually called. Is it Tide Ripper? I think it was called. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'll set up a traps around them, and then once they run into it, they get electrocuted, or maybe they'll be set aflame. And then I'll start throwing my spears that will have explosive detonation to it, just start breaking apart their parts and just uncovering all the weaknesses and stuff like that. There's a ton of fun here, and then there's a lot of variety in the side quests, stuff like that. So, very very fun game, and it's absolutely just I love it. I can't get enough of it. I can't not wait for Burning Shores later this year with a whole new area. So yeah, Forbidden West lands at number 4 for me.
It's so good. It's such a good game. Burning Shores. Oh man, more hours. I'm probably gonna play that and then hop back into the main game because I'll be back and forth between that and the main area. Uh,
Mhm.
my number four is Macho talked about it in great length earlier, but it is Live Alive. And if there was the definition of cozy nights, it was this game. This game I only exclusively played it before bed every night, and I beat it on a night before bed. And man, what a JRPG! This game, a lot of people didn't really vibe with the combat because of its simplicity, but I really think that it it's not a game that goes like it doesn't hammer down double. It doesn't go double on any certain aspect in terms of mechanics because the mechanics are pretty simple. where I think this game excels is the way that everything just ties up, and the story and the music, just the presentation of this game is outstanding. And I mean, you talked about it earlier, Macho, just how everything comes together at the end. And what's so amazing is that you don't just get that if, oh yeah, just play all the stories and that's it. No, 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 no. Play all the stories, but now you gotta go through a gauntlet of sorts. And you need to be good. You need to have leveled up. You need to be ready. You need certain gear. You need, that final sequence. There's like 7 different dungeons that you can do, all of different variety of difficulties. And this is one of my favorite. I don't know if it's a trope or just something that JRPGs do, but the idea of a super boss. And it's this idea that the only game that's not a JRPG that did it that I really enjoyed was, I guess, Assassin's Creed Origins, where once you beat the game, you can go to these certain areas that there's these very, very strong bosses. Essentially, it's just warriors on elephants, because elephants for the longest time were some of the biggest, I think, like creatures of war in battle.
I remember that actually.
And you could go to these little circles where there was a warrior on an elephant waiting for any challengers, and you could go challenge it, and it was like super hard. And in this game, there's like certain bosses that if you don't really do certain specific things in certain dungeons, you're not gonna find them, and they are hard. These are not just special enemy. No, you need to have a party of 4 like truly leveled up characters to battle these bosses. And I love that. I love when there's like that one challenge that's not the final challenge, but will benefit you greatly. Because if you defeat these enemies, you get certain gear that will really, really benefits you in the end. I love it, man. I love how the more you level up, the more you get closer to unlocking that one special move for each character. So each character you can level up to a point where you get an exclusive move for that character that is like the most powerful for that specific character. And it's so much fun to like just play around with who benefits what in what battle. And you can just switch around between it's 8 or 7 characters, I think 8 characters. And they don't all work the same. Like they all truly are different. Now I will say there's definitely a tier list in my mind of the best characters and the worst characters mechanically. Every story is special and beautiful in its own way. No story is better than the others. Definitely there's a story that will stick with you longer. But there's definitely better characters than others. And I would say for me personally, and just like one thing to throw in that's random for the game, the character I used the least was the mine dude, the one that had telekinetic powers.
Oh yeah, I think Akira is his name.
Akira. Love this story though. Super anime. But then my number 1 character, I went back and forth between the student, from the martial arts, the pupil, her, and Pogo. Pogo the caveman is broken. He's cracked. This man is a DPS menace. If you want to hit,
man, not the wrestler,
bro, the wrestler. Here's the thing with the wrestler is that he depends a lot on. I'm a very like, I move around a lot, and for the wrestler, you always have to be up close and personal with the person, because the moves are very short range. I think with Pogo, I like his wide spread, like his very like wide attacks that. Although they're melee or they're physical, I just love the idea that it's just him being gross. Pogo he doesn't have magic. Pogo doesn't have gear. Pogo literally will go, I'm gonna burp, and that is my attack. And it will do incredible amounts of damage. And I love that. It's so silly, but it works. It never detracts from the overarching narrative. The ending is just as serious. And it's so simple. The main premise of this whole thing is, you don't need hate in your heart. The whole odio thing. Odio means hate in Spanish. It's such a good game. That's my number 4, man. Live Alive, beautiful. And just like that, Jay, we've entered the top 3 games of 2022 that we played.
Oh boy, top 3.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. Okay, so
he's so excited.
this, um, I went back and forth on this one, guys. I didn't know where. I mean, this was tough for me. I didn't know whether this should be number 2 or
Sure.
if it should be number 3. I went back and forth a lot on this decision, but ultimately I said that my number 3 is Cyberpunk 2077.
Whoa! Yay! For the first, this is beautiful. So we've gone full circle from starting the podcast back in 2020 or 2021 with Cyberpunk being a dumpster fire to now Cyberpunk being on a top 10 list. I love it. Full circle. Continue.
I mean, you guys know how like utterly obsessed I was over this game in February, I think is when the next gen version.
Yeah.
Which can we just give a shout out to like how crazy that February was between Sifu, Horizon, Elden Ring, Dying Light 2, and then Cyberpunk just dropping their next gen version. Like what a month, man.
What a month.
But yeah, man, Cyberpunk was just like I love games like that, even though it wasn't an RPG, but just games where you get to create your own character, you get to make dialogue choices, you get to build relationships with characters, and you're taking on a deep narrative, and you get to outfit your character and things like that. I love games like that. There's not a lot of them out, to be honest, but whenever they do come out, I just always get like absolutely obsessed over them.
Mm-hmm.
Cyberpunk is one of my like most favorite genres. I it's both really scary and haunting and uncomfortable, but at the same time, just like I can't help but be really intrigued by that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, just the whole concept and idea of V, this character who is trying to make a name for herself, literally starting from the gutter and trying to work her way up the ranks of, you know, the whole Night City hierarchy, and you know, kind of shaking the greasy palms of some really, really bad people along the way. And then later on, just literally losing her own sort of individuality to Johnny Silverhand, and that whole like tug of war between her consciousness and his consciousness, but them later kind of coming to an understanding between one another and building a really, really like a friendship that I really loved by the end of the game. Like, man,
Yeah.
I just love how like down those two characters were for each other by when it was all said and done. Um, and just the decision that you had to make at the end of the game, whether you were willing to give your body over to Johnny for good or not.
What do
Um,
you do?
um, I I don't think I did. I whatever option left me alive for like the last like 6 months or whatever, because like, you only have like 6 months to live after you make your decision.
Yeah, it's when you
Um,
go out with the Aldecados or whatever, and like try to look for someone else that can help you.
I didn't do that one.
Mm.
That's one of the endings. I did. I forget which one I did. Um, but yeah. So yeah, I did that, and again, man, just like the right CD probably right. Like say what you want about the state the game released in, which is totally fair. All those complaint like the way that game was released was like I don't know what the hell they were thinking, but like the one thing that is like undeniable is that that team still knows how to write with like the best of them in the industry.
Yep.
Um, we talk about like Judy Alvarez all the time, and just how great of a character she is, and just how tragic that story with her and Emily Parker, right? Her name's Emily, right?
Emily, yeah, yeah. Evelyn,
Yeah,
Evelyn, Evelyn.
Evelyn. Just how tragic that story is. You know, think about Dexter Deshawn, right? And
Mm.
of course Johnny. Um, just the side quests as well. You know, thinking about River, him, and just how truly messed up his whole side quest is with his nephew and the people who kind of like lured him into a really messed up situation. A kid, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, thinking about Pan Am and her sort of decaying relationship with her people, and trying to build that back up. Just like honestly, like Takemura, thinking about him,
Yeah,
all the people that you meet in Night City, like
dude.
all the players,
The
is just
the different BDs that you encounter and the different stories that are just downright like chilling, and how horrible it is for the people that do not have the means to survive in Night City. It is so it's intense.
yeah, it is. But at the same time that and I just started thinking about the whole the string of side quests with the guy who's like running for mayor or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, and just how and this is an idea that's explored in cyberpunk in general, and especially in Ghost in the Shell. But that guy who was running for mayor, who was like over time being implanted with false memories without him knowing, and like just like talking to that character and like him being so sure of himself and being so sure of his campaign and blah blah blah, and then discovering that yeah, he is having memories implanted into him, that this has been happening for a long time, finding a secret room in his own apartment that him and his wife did not even know about. And then like the decision later on where like this information, but it's like, do you tell this guy and his wife that they have basically been living like a false life for an undisclosed period of time? Like it would be pointless to tell them because they've been living like this for so long, but at the same time, like, do you morally tell them about this, and what would they do with that information? It's just like stuff like that is just like it's so like uncomfortable,
So real.
but like so uncomfortable, but at the same time it's that kind of thing where like you can't like peel yourself away from, because it's
Mm-hmm.
so well written, and it's so like fascinating at the same time. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
those are the memories I think I come away with in my experience with Cyberpunk, not necessarily the combat or how you were able to augment your character and make them kind of your own thing, even though that stuff was really cool and fun to do. The thing that I take away from that experience is the stories, the people of Night City itself, and how layered and dense of a location and setting, and how fully realized Night City is, right? And I think, Walt, we've said this time and time again. Night City is probably one of my I'll say it is my like favorite location in the game ever.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because
I'd
it's
say
a
I'd say
place.
it's the best. It's the best setting, like fixed setting in a video game. Um, one that's not influenced so much about your decisions, but it's a game that doesn't focus on you impacting the environment, but it's the environment that impacts you, because Night City does not change. Night City will spit you out like the scum you are. It's the type of place where you don't come
Let
to
him finish. Walt. Let him finish. Walt. Let him finish.
Oh, he's good. He's good.
you don't come to Night City to change it. No, it'll change you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm just thinking about like the moments where like I'm walking around the like the corpo areas and just like looking up, man. It's just like, damn, like you literally feel what V is feeling, in the sense of like I am insignificant in the wider scheme of Night City. Like I am nothing but like a small fry, like an ant in comparison to like this just absolutely like gargantuan place. It is a city. I saw it described as like a place where like you're not just like you have to actually like contend with the environment and like explore it on its own terms. Because it is just so like layered and densely packed and interesting, and just like riding on your motorcycle at night in that place, and just seeing, you know, the neon lit billboards and the giant skyscrapers. It's just an image that like I it's just always in my head that I'll never forget. Like I love that kind of stuff, and this game absolutely nailed it. Like that and the writing are like the two things that people can't tell me sucked or something like that. Um yeah, it's just like what an incredible game once it was once it was released in a somewhat workable state. It turned out to be a really fantastic experience, I think. Um I wish I could see my character though. I'll say that. Um
Yeah.
but besides that, man, Cyberpunk 2077 was incredible, and it is my number 3 game of the year.
Amen, brother.
Nice. Yeah, that's one on top of Hitman 3. That's another game I just want to go back to, just dive right in.
Yeah,
Um
absolutely.
Now that I finished kind of that first sequence that everyone says is kind of like meh, I'm ready to get back into it.
God, and Walt, we didn't like I didn't even talk about Jackie,
Bro,
Misty,
oh my God, the gang for Jackie and on his mom and all that, and oh
specifically like the heist and
yeah,
what happened during that mission. And like yeah, that moment was sad, of course, like losing Jackie, but like it was specifically like the mission that followed and going through his stuff with Misty,
mm-hmm.
like that was the moment that actually
Heartbreaking.
like it's always the same thing with God of War Ragnarok. It's always the moments that come after a character dies that once it actually like settles, that hits me the hardest. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like going through Jackie's garage with Misty and listening to her, you know, share stories and talk about, you know, certain things that you pick up, and just how much these two loved each other. Like
Yeah,
Jackie, like sure, he may not have had a lot in the world, and you know, he obviously wasn't rich and things like that, but god damn, dude, did he love that girl so much, and it really came through in that mission. And yeah, again, those are the moments that I take away from Cyberpunk 2077.
oh yeah, man, love it.
That's what's up, man. All right, so my number 3 is a big game that came out in July, and that's Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Oh man,
And this one, well, I had a lot of contention either going back and forth between what will be my top games and like my top 5 here. And after talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and our best moments of the year, really thinking about my play time with it, and just the story that it told, and the design of it, and how seamless it all felt, and even get to the point where I think that it's a better game than Xenoblade Chronicles 1, which for me is a huge step because that was Xenoblade Chronicles 1, fellas, back in 2011 was the pivot of JRPGs. That was the modernization, and Xenoblade Chronicles was the leader in that charge. So for me to say that 3 is a better game is is quite a big deal for me personally. That's like saying for me that like Xenoblade Chronicles is better than like Final Fantasy 7 and stuff like that. And it's just overall at 3, it's just an incredible game, and on the design point, just the story pacing, the writing is really great. It really is it feels like the modernization that Xenoblade Chronicles needed from being coming from like this sort of slower paced game that Xenoblade Chronicles 1 was to a very long and anime like game that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was. 3 was the best of both worlds. You got the really great character designs from 1 with a mix of a better story pacing, but also the crazy bombastic nature of a JRPG that 3 was. It definitely gets into that whole realm of like we're playing with reality and different kinds of metaphysical themes here. But 3 just does such a great job of grounding everything because of the characters. Noah, Mios, Senna, and the rest of the gang are really they get their time to shine, and it's really amazing how the game serves them rather than they serve the story in the game. Um, it's really incredible stuff, and then the actual side quests themselves are so worth doing. You get so much more context and not just the world that you're in, but the characters that inhabit it, and they're all very personal stories. Like there's this one story of a general that you're following, and she's super suicidal. She loves the battle. She loves the thrill and the excitement. She gets in there. She's like, let's go in there and die. Like she's so general and like gun ho. But the reason why is because of what I told you before, so how these characters have a limited time. They're going to die and they know that. So her entire mentality on life is let's go in guns blazing. We are going to die today. There is no tomorrow kind of mentality. And it's cool how that kind of personality can rub off on certain characters, how there's certain characters in your main party, how they can detest that or they can absolutely see it as inspiration, right? To always live today and not for tomorrow kind of thing. And this whole game plays around the entire themes of that, and I really appreciate how those characters too aren't just side characters. They're not just stories that you experience. You can actually have them invited into your party for a limited time, and you can even swap them in and out too. So every character you're coming across, and there's like at least like I think there's at least like 20, I want to say, different side characters you can actually bring back into your party. And now instead of having just 6 people in there, you have 7. So it can get very crazy and chaotic, which is why the UI is absolute dog shit. But it's still, again, it all serves the whole story. It serves the gameplay. Um, yeah, I can go for on and on about this game because there's so many great things that make the gameplay really invigorating, exciting, that makes exploring the world so much more in depth and contextualized compared to the first 2 games. It's a it's a top tier JRPG, and all the praise for it is not enough to say how great this game really is. And I wish it'll just get more recognition and some awards, but all that said and done, it really doesn't matter because the people that play the game, the people that love the game, will always talk about it, and I'm one of those people. So that's why it's number 3 for me.
Nice, nice. I was expecting it to be very high on your list, so yeah, nice to see that it made it into your top 3.
Yeah, it's trust me, it was a battle within, man, of which one it was gonna be overtaken. But I wanted to be consistent with some of my other stuff. But yeah, number 3.
Nice.
All right. My number 3. Oh God, where's my list? Jesus Christ. Okay. My number 3 is Elden Ring, and
Nice. Sure.
I mean, my Soul touched on the wonders of this game and how it lacks on certain aspects of it. And really, when I think about it and I think about how we talk about this game, it feels like this game should be lower, but that's not the case. It's just the fact that I hold FromSoft in such high regard, but I think that their games I'm too passionate about, and I feel like the things that bother me with them, I really will like talk about it. The game does feel bloated at times. The game will feel like it drags on a little bit too much. But I think that's my fault for dragging to the side content a bit too much and trying to do all the like mini caves and all the little caves and whatnot. I shouldn't have done that. I should have just done the main stuff. Mind you, that didn't take away from, going to Radon and going to Malekith and seeing the fire giant. Screw the fire giant. I don't like that fight. And there's moments in that game that I truly despise, but not in a bad mechanic or bad design way. It's the same way that I don't like fighting people like the Nameless King in Dark Souls 3. Not that it's a bad fight, it's that I get my ass kicked so much. Same like when I fight Malekith. That fight got me like so tense and on my toes. Like it was a Sekiro fight essentially. Like Soul said, there's a lot of Sekiro type enemies in this game that should have been in Sekiro and not here. But I think I talked with Macho about this a while ago. I think this game suffers a lot from identity crisis, and I think this game again lacks focus, which I think it's one of its biggest deterrents for me. Reasons why I like the prior games more is because they focus on one thing and one thing alone, and they excel at it. This game, I feel like it doesn't really excel at one specific thing. It's just an overall great game. But again, I don't think that its highs are as high as like the highest in a Sekiro or the highest in Bloodborne. and people immediately compare this game to Breath of the Wild. I'll be honest, I felt like I enjoyed exploring in Breath of the Wild more than I did Elden Ring. Um, Not because of it's bad or it's worse. It's just the type of environment it is. Elden Ring
Not
is
everything's trying to kill you.
not everything. And yeah, and I can actually explore, and I don't feel like it's a copy paste. You do have the shrines; those are definitely copy paste. However, they give you, although they're copy paste, they all give you different creative ways of solving them. When you're in Elden Ring, you don't really have creative ways of solving anything. You just have, oh, difficult. Let me power up. That's kind of it. That's not bad by any means, but there's no real nuance to it. While they are different builds, and I will shout out to Iron Pineapple and Vatividia. Those two are titans of the FromSoft community, fans, and they have found ways of making the game even more enjoyable with different builds and different challenges. What was it? There's one challenge that's the no roll challenge. There's the no hit heavy challenge where you literally cannot run. You play the game only by walking. And while that may sound tedious and annoying, some people find that a fun challenge, And also, let's not forget, guys, this game gave us some of the most legendary things in the gaming industry. The no name guy, was it? Let me solo her. That was legendary. That's still one of the biggest, most hype things in the video game community. The fact that you had a guy just be summoned depending on the time of day. He would be only at night, and if you were able to summon him, he would tell you, let me solo her. And if you stuck to the side, he would legit beat Malenia, the toughest boss in Elden Ring, in one go. But he explained how he went, hundreds and hundreds of times fighting her in order to get her fighting to a T. And also, I think it was Mika, the streamer that beat Malenia with a dance pad.
Just about to bring that up. One of the coolest trend that I'm seeing is people beating bosses or the game with just things that are unexpected. So yeah, the dance pad or stuff like that, where people
or guitar hero instrument.
And guitar, bro. Yeah, I follow a dude that beat Elden Ring with a steering wheel. That's awesome. What I think Elden Ring is, while I don't think the game itself exceeds for me compared to other prior entries, I think this game brought everyone together and it made people be more creative in the ways to tackle it and the ways to approach it. And mind you, the world in Elden Ring, probably one of the best in high fantasy. I'd say Elden Ring has the best. I haven't seen Lord of the Rings, so I don't know about that one. I can't have an opinion there. But I think this is the best high fantasy setting ever that I have experienced.
All stems for Lord of the Rings, my man.
Yeah. So wait, but that's the thing. Things can only improve.
Exactly.
And I'll know when I watch Lord of the Rings. But case in point, I think that this game, and not only with the dance pad, she was playing with a controller and the dance pad. She bit Malenia twice. Yeah.
That's great.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And so shout out to Elden Ring. Shout out to Miyazaki. And
so did you beat Malenia?
No, I have not.
No, you weren't able to. Okay.
Yeah, I just cheese her. I summoned two people and I beat her.
I did too. It was tough.
It is tough still. Even with three people, we almost died. But that's such a fun game. Highlights again. Sulphur River, like you said, the underground Astel. We talked about that in the last episode. Beautiful game. And shout out to Bill Clinton. All right, number 2. So,
Jesus. Okay. My number 2, and this should be no surprise. My number 2 is God of War Ragnarok.
Yep. All right. Yep. We know number 1. Okay. Nice, man.
There
Talk about
it. Yeah. So, I don't really know what to really say about Ragnarok that I haven't said already, but similar to Forbidden West, man, this is just an improvement in every single way. I feel like I liked the combat in 2018, but man, in Ragnarok, I just had a blast with it, man. Everything just the blades especially felt a lot faster this time around. I don't know if that's just a me thing.
No, it did. Yeah, it did.
Mm-hmm.
but the axe specifically, I just got into like a groove with it and was just able. I just felt like I was just able to do like every single combo like consistently, and it was just so fun to pull off. The spear definitely took some getting used to, but I ended up really enjoying it by the end game, which is what I'm doing right now. Um, so yeah, it just like it's got to be so tough because like you introduced the axe and then you introduced the blades in 2018, and both are like 10 out of 10 weapons by my estimation. And it's like, man, how do you follow that up? How do you make another weapon that is like equally or better than those two? And they did it. They made a third weapon that feels like I feel like no weapon got shortchanged in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Like you want to use all three of those weapons, which I think is really hard to do, but they pulled it off.
Yeah.
So shout out to them for that. The enemy variety is there. One of the biggest complaints from the first game. But the bosses, man, the bosses this time around, even though there's a lot of like what I dogged Elden Ring for doing, which is the whole thing about like regular enemies being bosses sometimes, or a lot of
Yeah.
repeat bosses.
Like the hateful.
Ragnarok, right. And it goes even beyond that. But yeah, Ragnarok has a lot of that. But specifically talking about the unique bosses, man. And just talking about Nithog or fighting Garm or Grayla, of course, Thor, Heimdall, like, and the optional side bosses as well, man. Like, they really knocked it out of the park this time around. I think, God, even fighting Freya. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
thought they did great this time around with the bosses, far better than 2018. Even though I prefer the Valkyries to the Berserkers, I still think overall Ragnarok, like without question, has the stronger bosses of the two. Um, and then the story, man. The story was just even though I have some nitpicks and gripes here and there, um, this game at times feels a little bit more cheesy than 2018 did. I'll admit. But overall, man, just like I really loved what they did with the story and where Kratos ends up. It's really cool, just right from the get-go, having Kratos and Atreus, their relationship already established, and them, starting off at a point where these two clearly love each other. Um, yeah, I just really adore the story. Just Kratos again trying to hold back this monster that is still kind of there, but just like exterior forces are at work that is just like poking the bear and is slowly trying to pull that thing out of him. Um, and yeah, I really love where they took a lot of the story. Admittedly, there's some slow parts to it, which will make it tough for me to want to go back for a new game plus run. But overall, like I think about the highs of this game, and the highs are just so high that it's like it's hard to kind of be upset with the story. Like I think about the Norn section that I just absolutely love. That I watch people's reaction to like still. I think about killing Heimdall and just seeing Kratos's reaction to that, just like his like you just again just the incredible motion capture work and seeing the look on his face after he realizes what he's done, that he's slipped back into the very thing that he's been trying to avoid this entire time. um so seeing that, of course, the Gallahorn scene, right, just how incredible that moment was despite my nitpicks with that. um, and God, how the game opened up. Like, you guys remember just like the nonstop adrenaline rush that opening was of like the Freya chase, the Bjorn moment of Atreus turning into the bear, and then both Thor and Odin showing up to Kratos' place. Um,
Yeah, man.
yeah, I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
like absolutely incredible. All the Nine Realms was really cool to visit that stuff. Um, the side characters, that's one thing that this game does that 2018 didn't necessarily do, was that this game is working with like it feels like a full deck of cards this time around. Like it is juggling so many different things into the air that I feel like yeah, it makes this game a little bit more messier than 2018, but like still like I just think about the introduction of Thor and Othin and Thrud for instance, and just how much I love all those characters. Um, I really love the emphasis on Freya this time around. Um, the overall theme of like family and how all these different characters are at different sort of stages with that and how they're dealing with it, right? So obviously you have um Thor and Sif trying to like they just lost two kids, so like they are just like kind of Kratos. They are trying to cradle Thrud as much as possible to protect her, but Thrud constantly wanting to like spread her wings and kind of do her own thing. Then you have Othin and how he treats Thor, right? And his family in general. One of the biggest things that I think like tells you all you need to know about Othin is like his first conversation with Kratos at his house when he's talking about Balder and he's like, um, Thor's kids they were useless, but Balder he had value. He was my best tracker. Like not even that like that's his son. He's not even upset that his son died because like that's literally my kid. No, he's mad because you killed his best tracker. You killed someone who had value, who had a skill set that you gave Odin an advantage, right? So like to see how he talked about his own flesh and blood in that way and not in like a oh you killed my son kind of way, right? Like yeah, just seeing like how Othin regarded his own family, Freya with still dealing with the loss of Balder, that stuff, and then of course that extends to her brother Freyr, and obviously the stuff with Kratos and Atreus, right? It even extends out to Angrboda and her grandmother, right? So like just the theme of family and how they deal with that in different ways. Um, Not even mentioning Thor with his alcohol addiction and him going relapsing and drinking again and how that has a palpable effect on not only Sif but Thrud as well, and just how heartbreaking that scene was. And like there's so much that this game does right that it's hard to really like stew on the little things that I didn't like in this game. Um and yeah, overall man, Ragnarok was like it I had high expectations, and in some ways yeah, I didn't hit those expectations, but there's other ways that it absolutely like blew those expectations out of the water. So yeah, God of War Ragnarok is my number 2 game of the year. I absolutely loved it.
Okay. And riding on that wave, number two is my my number two is God of War Ragnarok.
Okay, at this point,
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not gonna spoil. My number 2 is also God of War Ragnarok. So let's just like go back and forth, and we'll all talk about it.
well, the thing is, like, I think we can save like the bigger discussion for next week when we do our second part of
Yeah,
our spoiler cast.
yeah.
So, I mean, I will just echo everything that Soul said. I think all this the moments that hit really do hit for me. Especially for someone like myself that has a very strong relationship with my dad and almost losing him last year when he got a heart attack. It really hit home of why it was so hard for my dad to let me go when I went off to college or was moving out of the house for the first time. And excuse me, it's a little bit of a pain point, but it just again it really hits home the whole father son dynamic and why I'm so in love with that storytelling of a father letting go or a son becoming who he is, right? That kind of stuff really hits home for me. So, God of War Ragnarok was that biggest step from 2018 to what we see in Atreus and him becoming his own person, how he reacts to people, how he learned his lessons from Kratos and his mother, and what he takes that with him going into the future. And in Kratos learning to let go is also just a very heartbreaking uh, thing to see, but also very endearing and them trusting one another. I think just the story points themselves on God of Ragnarok, on top of the amazing gameplay and the level design and the side quests, like all around, like the technical aspects of this game are just incredible. Besides the characters telling you how to solve puzzles, like right when you get to a new area was quite annoying. But I will say that everything else that what you said, so everything else that my little nitpicks absolutely trump or trumped by the stuff that makes this game really great. And big shout out to Thor reviving you in the first boss fight. I thought that was such a cool meta moment. It's always gonna live forever in my brain.
Same.
But yeah, the father son aspect of this is one of my favorite things in any kind of medium. And God of War Ragnarok just was absolutely just a knockout for me. That's why I love the song "Blood Upon the Snow" so much, because that entire song, the lyrics crystallize Kratos' character and what he turns into, so beautifully. So yeah, number 2.
Yeah, I mean, I echo all of that. Same. You know, my dad being in Puerto Rico and only seeing him every so often, and being able to just see how hard it is to, how hard it is for Kratos to see, Kratos Atreus grow up and be the man that he is, and have these aspirations, and kind of, and Atreus being kind of like, yeah, hey, I want to know if you'll be fine without me and all that. Like it all echoes so much to reality, and how much I've had those conversations with my parents, and being like, are you gonna be okay? I won't be as available. Maybe I'll be too busy, and I want to make sure that you're okay. And this whole game is it's such a love letter to that. Like I see it as like one of the best ever, like truly personal stories ever told. Well, I do agree that. So you mentioned in your stream how this game felt like it had a lot going for it. Like it had a lot of things happening. I think that in the end, like Macho said, the positives far outweigh the negatives, if there are even like that many negatives. Because as you mentioned, you went in with high expectations, and something I preach and I always bothered y'all about it, that expectations ruin what could have been a better outcome. I think this game just exceeded 2018 in every possible way. While I do think that the first one had a more concise story in that way, or it had a more like tight story in the sense that it doesn't tackle as many themes, subjects, and plot lines as this one. Because this one, you even take a hold of Atreus as a character, like playing him. I think this one just it did everything the first one did at 10 times 10 and even better. I'd say that there are moments in 2018 that I kind of don't really remember as much, while this one, the ones I will remember, stick out so much. The fact that you get to know more about Faye and all that. Man, what a game!
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
You get to know about Faye and her situation, and you get to learn about what set 2018 in motions. 2018's in motion. And I think that's really important. Just getting context for 2018 makes this one and 2018 way better. Kind of in the sense how I treat Last of Us. I treat it all as one singular story. Yes, they are two different games, but I treat it all as one singular story. And just God of War, period. God of War / God of War Ragnarok. A masterpiece. Same with Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2. These are a Part 1s and Part 2s. This isn't a sequel like you traditionally know a sequel for. It's just a continuation, and I think it's masterfully done. What a beautiful game.
It's that thing where like I don't understand how people can just like jump into The Last of Us Part 2 without playing Part 1, or jump into Ragnarok without playing 2018. Like like these are two parts of like one single story, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I just don't know how you could do that.
That's why it's more of a part 2 than it is a sequel.
Yeah.
And
yeah, definitely.
Same with I think that Horizon is like in that middle ground of like it is a part 2, but also you can kind of play Forbidden West and not have played Zero Dawn, because you do get you get that story, but maybe like better explained. But yeah, man, Ragnarok. Wow, I mean, you said that about New Game Plus. I cannot wait for New Game Plus. I am beating this game, and give me God of War difficulty once that New Game Plus hits, and I am breezing through it again. Not breezing,
Yeah,
just
it's gonna be really interesting how they tackle that, considering one of the near the end game weapons is story based.
that's true.
So I wonder how they're gonna do that.
Yeah, maybe you get the weapon and it's fully upgraded once you get it. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. That spear, man. What Eric Williams said, he puts that spear against every other spear in video game history, and I think that spear is really dang good.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I definitely loved it a lot towards the end. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, man, what a game. I'm curious. I said this in the stream, but I think that franchise should be put on ice for a while. Like I'm good. I feel like I don't need another God of War game for a while. Like,
Yeah, but those numbskulls want to Egypt now. Like I don't I can't get behind that idea of like let's go to Egypt because it's like it was personal. I didn't see this as like, oh, more gods, give me more gods. That sounds cool, but I don't want that now. It's like you said, put it on ice for now. Even if they just defeated Fimbulwinter, it's about to get cold there.
Hey man, Anubis,
Hey,
all
man.
those gods, Egyptian gods, would be really cool.
Yeah, you want to put Knuckles on more gods?
Or even the Japanese mythology, Chinese mythology.
Yeah,
That'd be
man.
really cool.
Give
And
me
it doesn't
some.
have to be Kratos and Atreus. It could be something different.
Yeah, sure. We'll see. But then it's not God of War anymore. Anyways, what's your number one, Soul?
my number one, my game of the year was obviously
Obviously.
Divinity Original Sin 2.
Obviously.
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't know what else to really say about this game that I haven't said previously, but Divinity was sort of, it opened the floodgates for a genre that I never imagined I would actually like. I always sort of looked at the sort of CRPG genre of games with like a skeptical kind of lens. Like I would see the top-down perspective and would just immediately be turned off for whatever reason. I would just be like, that looks like, I don't know, like
Those freaking nerds.
exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, that's definitely not for me. I don't know what possessed me to actually play it. I think I was just like,
It was on
this
sale.
came after No, it came after Cyberpunk. So
I will say so. Like your RPG, like obsession
Renaissance.
started. Well, his obsession started right after Mass Effect.
Yeah.
yeah,
Because that's a good RPG.
Yeah, because so Mass Effect was 2021, and then Cyberpunk was February 2022, and then like I was looking for more stuff of that ilk, and then here comes Divinity Original Sin 2, like I don't know, like a few months after that, and yeah, it just kind of like blew the doors open for a brand new genre that because after that I played Pillars of Eternity, and then I played Pathfinder as well. These are like, mind you, these are like 50-hour plus games, each of them. So like it
and
was
that's being generous.
generous, for sure. Um,
And
but
now
yeah,
Baldur's
Divinity,
Gate is coming out.
which I can't wait for. But yeah, Divinity was again, it was something new for me since I've never played a game like that before. Um, from the character customization and just like the freedom of player expression in terms of like combat wise and the classes that you could choose from. You could really tailor make that character, your character, into like, do you want to be more of a mage character? Okay, but what kind of magic spells do you want to use? Do you want to use air attacks, fire, water, earth, poison, necromancy? Do you want to be more of a roguish type character? Do you want to be more of a glass cannon type of character? Do you want to be more of a barbarian like character? You can even towards the way that you speak with other characters, you could tailor make that into what you kind of want to be like. Um, so that stuff was really really cool. The combat is like, I know a lot of people kind of like scoff at like turn-based combat and they find it too slow and things like that, but like it like Persona, like this was like really really engaging, and just like everything on screen was very clear and everything popped and looked visually interesting. You knew what was happening at all times, which I think was the major difference between that and Pillars of Eternity, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which I just really love the presentation of the combat in general, which I did not like at all in Pillars of Eternity.
Yeah, it's a lot more bare bones for Pillars.
Yeah, it's so minimal in that game, which that's definitely a style, but I don't know, I like the more flashy, more like everything being clear to see in Divinity.
Yeah.
So yeah, combat was just a blast to get through. Um, there's that, and then just like the characters, man, like Walt, like we've talked about a lot of these characters previously, but just thinking about how distinct and well written each of these party members are from one another, and how quickly invested you get into their personalities and their stories and what they're dealing with. From Sabine, who is this elf who is trying to get revenge on her slave owner, her prior slave owner, and just how kind of messed up that story is, and
It's so
how
good.
like she has this really hard exterior, but you kind of like very slowly over the course of the game kind of chip away at that, and you become really really close to her. To Losa, who is a fan favorite, who I talked about her last week, but how she's this character who's slowly losing her mind to this demon who is like trying to take over her body, and helping her like confront this demon who she is terrified of. But
Is that the bard?
uh, she does have a lute, but she's not like a bard.
Okay, okay. But she has like she reminds me of a bard, like the D&D class of a bard.
He definitely has that personality, and I guess technically you could, which is also pretty crazy, is that you could play as any of these party members or whatever at the start of the game. Like you could choose to be Losa for the entire game, or you could choose to be Sabine for the entire game, and you
Or
can
the
edit
Red
their
Prince.
classes, or the Red Prince. You can edit their classes. You can make them into whoever you want to be.
Or the Goad
Right? Like
Thane.
you don't have to create a character. You could just be one of those characters for the entire game, which is I feel like I've never seen that before, right? Like Macho, it would be like if in Final Fantasy 15, instead of like Noctis, you were just playing Prompto for the entire game, and you were following his story for the
Yeah.
entire game instead.
It's
Um,
fascinating.
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. And again, you can change. Like I made Sabine a I think her canon class is like a rogue, but I just made her an archer for my playthrough, right? So you could literally tailor make these party members into like basically whatever you want, which was really really cool.
Yeah.
Um, but and then also like I think the biggest thing about this game is just like the reactivity of the world. Like there's not a lot of like major like quote unquote like big choices that you make like other big RPGs, but like there's things where like you'll save this character at the beginning of the game, and then like two chapters later they come back and they're like, hey, thank you so much for saving me back then at Fort Joy. I owed you a favor. Here's me cashing in on that thing right now, right?
Yeah.
So it's like little thing, like little tiny things at the moment that seem insignificant always find a way to come back later in the game and loop all the way around, right?
Hours
And
later. Like
yeah, in really cool ways, man. That I just really appreciated that level of reactivity. It made the world just feel that much more alive and real. And yeah, I love that kind of stuff. Um, and the story is also really really compelling. Really really interesting. It enough for me to actually see the whole thing through, which I loved. Um, and yeah, man, just what a game! I spent like over 100 hours in Divinity Original Sin 2. I want to at some point go back for another playthrough. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, man, I've never played a game quite like that before. Um, and I just was absolutely in love with it. Like I knocked out as many side quests as I could. Um, and
did you like
yeah, just
Fane?
I didn't bring him as one of my
Oh my
party.
god, dude.
Yeah.
If talking about endings, taking that man with you will drastically change everything you do in the game.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so good.
Yeah, I didn't bring him. I brought the Red Prince, low sense Stabile.
Okay.
So
Okay. I will
yeah,
say Fane works differently because with Fane, if you poison the ground, he gets healed.
yeah.
It's
I
really
mean,
cool.
that's another really cool, like talking about like reactivity. Like it's not just in the like the overall world, but in combat as
Mm-hmm.
well. So like I really love how like, hey, if there's a water barrel nearby and you shoot that water barrel, and then you have a mage who has electricity spells, and you shoot that water puddle with your electricity spell, then like boom, that's like, that's a reaction happening in combat. Or if you knock over like a fire barrel during combat and you use a fire spell, or actually if there's like an oil barrel on the battlefield, and
Yep.
you use like a fire attack to then like set that oil on fire, then it's like bam, you do like double damage to your enemies right there, right? So like
Yep.
that level. And then like you can also like, if because the enemies can do the very same thing to you too. So like if they set off the floor on fire or something like that, then if you have like a mage with a rain ability, then you can just cast rain to put out the fire, right? Stuff like that. Like that level of like environmental like interactivity as well is just like, I've never seen anything like that. Because like, Pokemon doesn't have that, or Persona 5 doesn't have that.
Nope.
um it's just like another added thing that you have to worry about in combat. But it's cool that it can go both ways. Like you can mess your enemies up with that, but they can also mess you up with that as well. So
Yeah.
Divinity just has so much going for it, man. I love it on all fronts. It's like it honestly like one of my favorite games of all time. I love it so much.
You should play Larian's latest game,
Which is,
Midnight Suns.
that's not Laria.
Isn't it right, Lady? Who made that
Nah,
one?
that's Firaxis.
Oh my God, these two make always the
Yeah.
damn.
Don't
Have you
don't
played?
get mixed up.
No,
Don't
but
get
have you
mixed up,
played
man.
XCOM?
No.
Okay.
But yeah, let's not uh let's not spoil the good name of Larian Studios, all right? They wouldn't put out
They both
trash
do
like that.
strategy. They both do strategy.
Anyway, Macho, what's your number one?
Hello, Macho.
Oh no, we lost him.
Oh
He
boy,
fell asleep.
you fell asleep with that explanation of a beautiful turn-based game.
I know.
No, I agree.
You
I
wanna
need to
go?
beat that game though, so I haven't beaten it. I'm still in the fort because there's just so much to do in that fort.
Eesh. Still in the fort?
But I'm like 30, 20 hours in, and
God damn, dude.
I'm still in that area because I'm doing everything. I'm doing everything.
Damn.
Yeah, I die a lot.
Yeah, you got a lot to do then.
Yeah, man.
But why don't you go with your number one then?
Yeah, man. My number one, very, very different from your number one. My number one is Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
Okay, let's go.
Kirby, as I've said in the past, is the first ever video game character I ever met in my life. Back in the Game Boy Color, Kirby's Dream Land. That's the first ever game I played, and ever since then, I've played Kirby games like no, like there's no tomorrow. I've loved the characters since I met them. I love that the games are, although easy, they're fun. They're super easy. It's what Sakurai calls Kirbyism, which is like making the game like extremely easy or something like that. And I mean, I think that this game has perfected the Kirby formula, the same way that Mario, like how Mario went from the 2D to 64, and although there has been 3D Kirby's, I think this is like the Kirby game to play. This is the greatest Kirby game I've ever played in my life. Talk about fun, having fun in a game. This game has it all. This game has tough boss fights. This game has abilities. However, you can evolve these abilities. So there's a little merchant that if you, let's say you get the fire ability, right? You are able to then find certain materials to then take to this merchant and craft a stronger fire ability. And this time it's, instead of just fire, it does fire and magma. But then there's more. Then you find out that there's an even better upgrade to the fire ability. And it's that from a fire ability with magma, you can become purely shooting meteors from your mouth. Like it's like fire infused rocks. And now you have an even stronger ability. But then there's more to this ability, because then you can get this fire ability, but instead of just fire, you spew fire in a longer range. It's purple this time, and it's like a string of fire, and now you can fly because it's like a dragon ability. So you've evolved a simple fire ability all the way to a dragon ability, and it's like one of the strongest ability in the game. But you don't get this until like later on in the game. Now talk about later on in the game and replayability. This game has a simple story, you know. Kirby's teleported. You know, you're in this, like, people compare it to The Last of Us, but Kirby, because you're in like in a mall, it's abandoned, and it's like it's overgrown, nature's taking over. But it really, I don't know how it works. It just works. You know, Todd Howard. It just works. The way that they oh look, Macho's there. The way they teleported Kirby into very, very different biomes, and quite frankly, like, humanity could have been here, but there's no humans. It's just you and Waddle Dees and like monsters. So with this, the whole thing with this game is, man, I don't think anyone is gonna play it. The whole thing with this game is very simple. The villains, big animals. That's it. They're animals that have taken over the world. So first boss fight, it's a gorilla. That's it. Second boss fight, it's a tree. It's Wispy Woods. But instead of it's just Wispy Woods, it's a palm tree, because it's a tropical area. So it's a palm tree Wispy Woods. But it's really hard. And then after that, an armadillo. And then you have a circus performer, but it's a leopard. And for some reason, she's very thick. She has the Pixar effect. And then after that, and
You're dumb, dude.
bro, I don't know. They made this leopard, like, or cheetah. They made her like thick. I don't know what is going on.
Well,
let's
the
move
fur-
on,
the
man. Let's
furry,
move on.
man.
They after this,
Move
man,
on.
you got King DDD's back, but he's not just King DDD. He's the king of the wild animals. So he's not just like his normal outfit. It's like tattered. He looks like a caveman almost. Instead of just a mallet, it has like spikes coming out of it. It's like he's devolved into a caveman, DDD. But here's the thing, you beat the game, but then you have to re-complete it, and each boss has changed. Now each boss fight is, you don't have to recomplete the game, you have to recomplete the bosses. There's like a gauntlet of bosses, and now the gorilla, he's like infused with like astral energy. And now the gorilla is like very like cosmic looking. He has like different colors in his skin. It's like green and pink and blue. And he's like stronger. He has like beam abilities. And then you fight the leopard, and now she can teleport and do a shadow clone jutsu. And there's like 4 leopards attacking you at the same time. And every boss just becomes completely cracked. Then you get to the ending of this game, y'all. And you find out that all of this is being orchestrated by a lion, which is the king of the animals, of course, the king of the jungle. And then you find out that lion and the cheetah, they're together. They were a couple, but she couldn't save the lion. And the lion succumbed to a darkness corrupted by an alien that invaded the earth. And now you have to defeat this alien. And there's this monstrosity, just a massive blob of animals and aliens that's attacking you. You defeat it. And then you find out that there's a god. There's a cosmic being that was orchestrating all of this. And then you have to be this cosmic being. You beat him. But then there's more. This is not the true cosmic being. There's like this deity, like actual god, that then comes back. And then you have to beat all these bosses again in the forms that I mentioned earlier. And once you get to it took me days to finally beat each boss, because the bosses get hard. And that's where the grinding starts. Very weird in a Kirby game. You have to grind for coins, you know, you need enough materials. You need to find these specific ingredients in the world to upgrade your abilities. You know, my build, or my Kirby build, was the hammer build. I focused on getting up and close and personal and whack. What I did was, you know that Kirby has the hammer ability, right? You can upgrade that to have 2 hammers. But not only that, it's not any hammer. You put on King DDD's mask. It's like a skull mask that King DDD has. And now these two hammers become like King DDD's hammers, and you do so much damage. And I use that to defeat the final boss, which then eventually you suck on a truck, and you become the truck, and then you have to dive into the like a portal where you have to like really hit it with all you got, and that's how you like blow up everything. Bro, this game goes from fighting gorilla to fighting the fate of the universe. It is crazy. I love it. Kirby games always end with like high stakes like that. It's crazy. I love it, man. And then you can upgrade a town as you go through through the levels. You collect these Waddle Dees that were lost from I forget the name of his planet, but the star planet where Kirby hails from. And you find all these Waddle Dees, and as you collect them, more shops are open. And there's a shop where you can get some items to regenerate your health. There's an item shop. There's a mini game shop where you do different mini games and get different prizes. There's a Coliseum where Meta Knight is in, and if you in that Coliseum is where you do the gauntlet of bosses and where you have to defeat the cosmic being. What a fun game, and wacky and beautiful, and the music is fantastic, and the cutscenes that they have are super adorable and cute, and quite frankly, quite dramatic and emotional. I will say I didn't cry, but I did feel quite endeared by these characters. And by the end of it, in the town that you just upgraded to the full capability, you have, you know how in games you can earn tracks, right? You can earn like the video game soundtrack. Well, the way that you play them in this game is that there's a band of Waddle Dees in the town, and there's a little chalkboard to the side, and you go there and you put, I want this song to play, and they start playing it. It's so cute, so simple, but so cute. And that's why Kirby and the Forgotten Land brought me so much joy in 2022, in a time where I really needed it. And it's my #1 game of the year. The best Kirby game ever created, and I hope this is the new direction Kirby games take.
Macho,
Wow.
close us out.
#1 for me is Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Water is wet, yes. My man
Listen,
said, "What's the #1 game in history for a lot of people?" Man, I'm so excited. Talk about this game?
Well, it's funny coming from a guy that's just spewed about Kirby Forgotten Land. All you
Shut
have
up.
to do really was just suck on the game.
Hey, yo!
So Castlevania Symphony of the Night is, I thought people were blowing smoke when they're saying it's one of the best games ever made. It's a perfect video game. I couldn't agree more. I binged this thing in the weekend, and it was like at least 20-ish hours I just put into it. And I thought, honestly, the mechanic of the castle flipping over would be super cliche and like, it's whatever. But, dude, it's so legit. It's so legit how the enemies just shift around and just get harder. And the fact that this game actually has an RPG system in it, too, where you can equip different shields and food items and weapons to each different hand, and you have your own armor set. And the thing is, I went through the entire game just messing around with physical weapons. I didn't touch magic at all, but there's actually a magic system in the game that you can mess around with too and adhere to your own different play style and stuff like that. And again, I can't say anything else that other people haven't said about Castlevania Symphony of the Night, except that it's one of the best games ever made. It's my #1 game of this year, and rightfully so, because I love Hollow Knight and all these Metroidvania games, and this is like the father of them. It's undoubtedly like one of the best in the Castlevania series. Like, what a shift in like as far as the series starting from where it was just like a platformer that you kind of just ventured through that has some more or less action elements in it, and to see it keep progressing through each game, and then boom, you get hit with Symphony of the Night. It's like it's like a God of War refresh, where that series was already great with what it had, and then it diverts into this whole other thing. Same thing for Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and it's a perfect video game. There's not much more I can really say on that. More people should be playing it and picking it up, because it's absolutely incredible. So yeah, it's my #1.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
man, all these games. Nice. What beautiful, very different games. Let me tell you. Uh, I never expected Soul to bring in such a like left field. I mean, you did talk about it a lot during the year, but I never expected you playing that type of game, like Divinity, and I never thought Macho would grow this lust for Castlevania. Like
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
Yeah, I like. How do you guys think your lists from this year compared to last year? Because I think I like my list a lot this year. Um, I'm trying to think about what I had last year, and it was like things like obviously Guardians of the Galaxy, Ratchet, um, Mass Effect 3 was my number one. Um, Returnal obviously was up there. But besides that, I honestly couldn't tell you. Oh, Kano was on that list as well for me. Um,
I'd say I like
yeah,
this list more than I did the prior one to 2021. Uh, I'd say these games are higher than the games. Like if I were to put these games against my 2021 list, a lot of these games would be higher than those games. I think. Like,
yeah, that's fair. I'm trying to
Yeah,
think.
my thing was the whole discoverability. I mean, top of 14, and Walker coming out in 2021, that just blowing out of the water. Loved every bits of it.
mm-hmm.
Um, 2022 was a lot of going back to games that I've always wanted to play or series I wanted to play, but never gave the time to, and I finally did, and I did the Castlevania, and I was just enamored with it. It reminded me of the time so when I on PS3 where I was not just playing the Spider-Man games or not just playing Kingdom Hearts or anything like that. That was a time where I discovered how much different games there are when I what I really love, like BioShock and Final Fantasy 7 and even Call of Duty, messing around with that too. This felt like the same thing, but last year were with Castlevania and a couple other stuff.
So
Yeah.
this was my list from last year. It was number 10. Walt, you remember this game? Persona 5 Strikers.
Oh yes, sir.
Yeah. Number 9 was Chivalry 2. Number 8 was Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Number 7 was Solar Ash. Number 6 was The Forgotten City. Number 5 was Kane of Ridge of Spirits. Number 4, Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 3, Returnal. Number 2, Hitman 3, and number 1, Mass Effect 3 Legendary Edition. So yeah, I think overall this list absolutely trumps last year's list. Even though I like all those games from last year, but yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Um, but yeah, that's gonna do it for the DualShock and Sense Cruise personal top 10 games of 2022. I think we had a lot of variety in our lists, and yeah, it was really cool just listening to like what everyone was like really passionate over 2022. Because I think as much as people were trying to say that 2022 was like a down year or whatever, I think we just kind of proved that 2022 might have secretly or maybe not secretly have been a banger of a year, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I
Yeah.
said, I had two different sets of lists and I was happy with both of them.
Yeah.
I didn't put in Star Ocean 6, which kind of got bumped out. Marvel Snap, Disney Dreamlight Valley, like all the stuff that I had on my top 10 got bumped out because of Castlevania and Parasite Eve.
We didn't even talk about Callisto.
Oh,
That's
I'm
not,
sure.
that wasn't gonna make my list. I'll say that right now.
um, but yeah, man. So I want to remind everyone to go ahead and like and share out the podcast. Before we get out of here. We also guys, we are on the eve of the Last of Us HBO show. So Macho, do you wanna announce something?
Yes, sir. Me and Walt and attentively Soul will join in for our very special spoiler episode recaps of The Last of Us TV show on HBO. We're looking forward to it. Timing is going to be very sporadic, so stay tuned to either of our Twitter accounts, and especially the DualShock and Sense Twitter account for when we go live and what days we're going to go live. It's going to vary by schedule and everything like that. So again, stay tuned for that. But we are absolutely going to be recapping every episode, all 9 episodes, when they come out, starting with the very first one tomorrow. We'll talk more about when we're going live. So again, stay tuned for our Twitter accounts. But we are very excited for that, man. I'm absolutely pumped for the show. So it's going to be a really fun discussion. So definitely tune in for that.
Yes, sir.
Sir, yes, sir. I am really looking forward to seeing like obviously the critic reviews have been like glowing across the board. I'm really excited to see how the fans react to it tomorrow for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, man, that is going to do it for the DualShock and Sense crew. I want to thank everyone who joined us over the course of this very, very long podcast. Um, yeah, let's get started with these outros. Walt, you got anything going on this week?
I do indeed. Much gaming, and I got much watching. First of all, Last of Us for sure tomorrow. We'll be watching. I'll be watching that. Macho will be watching that. We'll talk about that. I'm playing currently 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, so I'm getting through that. Loving the heck out of that game.
That almost made my top 10 too, because I played that early in the year.
Yeah, if I had beaten it, then I would have definitely made it. But I'm still going through the story. It's so good. I'm currently going through the end game of Pokemon Violet. Having a lot of fun with that, with Terra battles and Terra raid battles and all that. This week I think I'm gonna be watching. What am I gonna be watching? I got a couple of movies lined up. I might continue Wednesday. I haven't continued Wednesday. I'm like halfway through the show and I'm really liking it. And I don't know, man. I want to get into another show. I'm gonna see what's good out there, like a good long show. See what's good sinking my teeth in. I might try out that show you talked about a while ago, Dark. I might check that out. Here it's a banger. And I'm much, man. 13 Sentinels. Oh, I started playing. Remember that puppet game, the automaton game, Steel Rising, where you play as a robot. It's like a Souls game.
Yeah.
I started that recently, and I'm having a ton of fun with that. So,
Cool.
I'll be playing that in 13 Sentinels. What about you, Macho?
Yeah, it's gonna be more reading Lord of the Rings. I'm halfway through the
Nerd.
Two Towers book. Yeah, absolute nerd. You know it, buddy. That halfway through that book, it's funny how that book is broken up compared to the movies. But it's still really good. It's a lot of fun reading and seeing the perspective on, again, like the kind of grandfather of fantasy written novels. It's really cool. Enjoying that a ton, and gonna be playing more Lost Judgment for sure. I'm on chapter 5 of 12, but I'm doing a lot of side content. I got like 50 hours in the game already, and it's just I'm enjoying a lot of the side content. Some of it's very grindy, but it's still a great game. And then we'll see how far I get into that, and maybe go back to Hitman. But I'm really anchoring to play Chained Echoes. I just gotta see if that's actually feasible. Um, and then maybe some Elden Ring with Walt.
Yes,
We might be doing
sir.
that. We might be doing that tonight. So
Yes,
we'll
sir.
see. We'll see. Probably do New Game Plus and have fun with that. And so again, you're more than welcome to join us. It'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, and then the HBO Last of Us stuff, man. Definitely tune in for our spoiler cast for our episode recap or whatever case it may be. Wherever we end up calling it, it's gonna be great. Especially how me and Walt can get into the weeds of these conversations. So that's gonna be really cool. Stay tuned to my Twitter account or his for when we're gonna go live. So yeah, that's it.
Nice. So, as for me, just going back and forth between Neon White and Signalis for the next few weeks or so. But yeah, that's pretty much gonna do it for us. We will catch you guys next week for our next part of our God of War Ragnarok spoiler cast. So until then,